Howdy. How's everybody? Welcome to the Sunday Show After Dark. I'm your host, Forrest Valkai. I'm joined today by Eric from the Skeptics and the Scoundrels. How are you today, my friend?
I'm doing well, Forrest. It's a really nice day up here in Seattle. Autumn's hit, so yeah, I'm just like totally jazzed about it. But yeah, no, I'm doing great. How about you?
That's awesome. I am a sleepy little boy. I just had a show in Wichita, Kansas this morning. I was up there doing a speech, and what was crazy is it's about a 3-hour drive from me here in Tulsa. So I got up at 5 a.m. to make sure I had time to get myself ready, get my supplies ready, get everything together, and then hit the road right at 7 so I could be there an hour early. I kind of put the pedal down a little bit, so I ended up getting there before 10 o'clock, and nobody was there. So I just kind of, went down the road, got some hot chocolate, hung out for a little while, drove around for a minute in Wichita. Then I went back to the venue and still no one's there. And I was like, it's whatever. No big deal. It's just kind of wait a little while longer. It's getting pretty close to the time the thing's supposed to start and nobody's there. And I'm very confused. So I'm like scrolling through, I'm making sure I'm at the right place. Am I, if I fucked up somehow, and I'm checking the event and everything. And then I realized it's the day. Yeah, it was today. And I was there Saturday, waiting like an idiot in Wichita, Kansas. And so I drove 3 hours back home, got some work done, should have gotten some sleep, but ended up staying up almost all night editing and then had to turn right around a bit. So I'm like, I've had like 2 hours of sleep in as many days, and I've driven to Kansas and back twice in as many days, and I'm just exhausted. But
yeah, you must
it's
be
been
blasted.
a great day.
It's
like
crazy.
so many incredibly nice people up there. Just a really, really cool event at Wichita Oasis. If you're in Wichita and you want a secular community, go check them out. But beyond that, studying for midterms, which I've got exams on Tuesday, and trying to get videos cranked out and juggling 15 other things at the same time. I'm just very busy and very happy.
That's awesome. Happy. It's always good to stay occupied, especially things you love and you're passionate about, because then it's just fulfilling. Just the work is just effortless. They say if you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life, and that's kind of peak, I guess peak possible happiness you can get when it comes to your career in the United States. So yeah, no, it's good you're experiencing that.
I love that. That's that old thing. And people are like, what's your dream job? And it's like, I don't dream of labor, dude. I just want to do cool shit. Yeah. I don't know
what's your dream function in society?
I
want to do what I want to do.
What kind of ant would you like to be?
Exactly.
Hey, if you're out there in the internet watching this stuff, this is a call-in show. So if you are a theist, if you believe in a god or gods, or if you believe in other things that we here at this channel don't, we are a progressive, secularist, humanist, what are other words? Leftist of community of peoples wanting to make the world a better place and free people from the shackles of religion. So if you want to call in as a theist and talk to us about God, that is the main function of this show. If you'd like to talk to atheists about your religion and about what you believe and why, and try to convince us to believe the way that you do, make an argument for your God or gods, this is the best use of this show. But also, if you want to call in and tell us why you think Trump is a good president, if you want to call in and tell us why you think sex and gender are the same thing, if you want to call in and tell us why you think evolution isn't true, if you want to call in and argue about whatever other thing that you think might be interesting, we have a call screener that'll take your call, and they'll tell you whether or not it's something that would be a good conversation for us, something that we would actually have something to talk about. So don't worry about wasting your time. But this is a show for you to call in and have good conversations, have actual conversations with actual people who actually disagree with you for good reasons, and not just, hopefully, not just get into a shouting match over the internet. Eric and I are nice people. We match energy, so we'll be as pleasant as you are. Call the number on the bottom of the screen, 720-619-2288, or use the link in the description and call in that a ways. And we would love to talk to you. If you are a believer in the Jesus or in whatever other religious thing, we're very familiar with the Bible. We'd love to talk to you about it. Or if you're some sort of science denier out there, let's talk. Or if you think science is on your side and that's why you're super MAGA and super anti-woke or whatever like that. If you want to talk about wokeness, boy, I'd love to take that call. This is the show for you, 720-619-2288. Pick up that phone or use the web link in the description and let's talk. While we wait for calls to come in, what sort of projects are you doing right now? What are you working on?
Oh man, so I'm not doing too much right now. Just it's just mostly been on the line. I know I got a couple of things coming up, a couple collaborations with some other content creators. Another XJW content creator named Ryan Cultastic. I'll be doing a co-stream with her here pretty soon, talking about just one of the latest Jehovah's Witness videos that they have put out. And yeah, just a few various other things. I know we have some plans next year that I'm not going to talk details about, but some plans for like, conventions and get-togethers and such that we're going to be planning for. So that's kind of what we're at. And this past week, not really quite, activism related, but I got to hang out with John and KC because they came up to Seattle for a visit, and I got to hang out with them for a few hours. I showed them around the Pike Place Market and such. So I think just mainly I'm just trying to collaborate, get to know everybody else and hang out and everything. So yeah, that's kind of what's been on my plate. Yeah. How about you?
That is the joy, honestly. That's my favorite part about going out and doing conventions is just getting to network with other great creators and then meet just amazing people out in the wild. Because like sitting here and doing this, it's wild. Let me tell you, you're sitting alone in a room talking to a little black eyeball, and then 2,000 people see that, and then over the next week, 20,000 people see that, and those are just kind of numbers. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, cool, the numbers were there. But like when you actually get to go out and meet people face to face, it's such a different animal. It's awesome.
It is. Yeah, it is. It is absolutely easy to kind of like lose perspective on exactly how many people, like, I say right now, we got a little over 1,100 watchers right now. Like that's a lot of people. And to us right now, it's just a number on a screen, but then you can like kind of visualize, okay, what if I was in an auditorium with 1,100 people or 3,000 people? Or if you think about, the amount of time and all the viewers, like tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of views that a video might get on this channel. Imagining speaking in front of that many people, how that kind of like changes things. And they say that, public speaking is one of the biggest fears to overcome when it comes to, like just, public speaking. And there's a good reason behind that.
It's a big fear in public speaking. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. It's a self-feeding fear there. But no, it's like it's a big fear to overcome because I'm not an expert on this, but my understanding is that we are like we're like tribal creatures. We're social creatures. Our standing in society is important to us, most of us at least. And public speaking is an opportunity to either enhance and increase that standing or drastically pull it back. It is like kind of a risky endeavor. So that's kind of, I think, where the fear comes from is that, if you say something wrong or you say something out of line or you say something that just simply does not resonate with who you're talking to or who you're speaking to, it can have a huge social cost. And that's where the fear comes from, because as tribal creatures, as social creatures, having that social cost can decrease your odds of reproducing, can decrease your odds of survival, even though we don't quite deal with those like problems now in modern society. It's that fear and drive is still built in us. So and that's kind of where that fear comes from. But anyway, that's kind of a tangent. But like speaking in front of an audience, it's nerve-wracking.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It does, because like you're right. It's a cost of social capital. It's that's the biggest concern for things. But like we work on the internet where you are entirely morally responsible for everything ever said by anyone you ever take a picture with. So like, it's kind of, you're already screwed by showing up. And that makes it a lot more fun. Plus on a show like this, that is something I consider is like, we're here to take on religion. We're here to say very not nice things about people's deeply held beliefs. if there's a thing to get canceled for or easily over, it would be this. But like at the end of the day, I suppose it's at a certain point when you're talking to an audience like this, and especially as your audience continues to grow and you continue to grow as a content creator, and that number gets bigger and bigger. It's not if you're going to piss somebody off. It's, are you pissing off the right people? That's the key. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if I'm going to get up here and talk about how the God of the Bible is evil, if I'm going to get up here and talk about, you know, speak out against the genocide in Gaza, if I'm going to get up here and talk about, that trans men are men and trans women are women, if I'm going to get up here and talk about that abortion is essential health care and that it shouldn't be restricted, you know, if I'm saying these things, I'm gonna piss people off, absolutely. But the people that I piss off are people whose opinions don't really matter too much to me anyway, because they hold horrible fucking positions. And so, like, I'm willing to extend an offering to have a conversation. I'm willing to put myself on the line. I'm willing to put myself out there and make myself vulnerable for people to call in and make me look stupid, which they don't have to help with. I'm good at doing that myself. But like, I'm willing to do that work and take that risk. Because I already have kind of accepted that fate. You know, I'm gonna be divisive today. I have made that decision, and I could be a lot more famous if I was deliberately a lot more palatable. But at what cost? You know, that kind of blows.
Yeah, you kind of sacrifice part of your proverbial soul there when you are not being true to yourself just to cater to a crowd. And that can really have like its own internal cost there too. Yeah, it's social interactions, like being a human in a society is hard, especially when you're like a public facing figure. Yeah, it's like all kinds of interesting things you never about.
Anybody out there who isn't a content creator and wants to just seriously imagine, like, I can push one button on my phone and I will deeply enrage 3 million people. Imagine what that feels like. It's a bizarre feeling. Like, all right, I'm going to hit post and I know what's going to happen.
This power I wield.
It's awful.
Unlimited
it's a bizarre feeling.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you, Palpatine.
We've got calls coming in. We still have some lines open. As of right now, we have 1 theist and 3 atheists waiting on the line. Just to let everybody know, we do prioritize theist calls. So we're going to take this theist call first. Atheists, you might be waiting for a long time. But if we get through this 1 theist and no other theists call in, we'll be taking the atheist next. So theists, if you're out there, if you believe in a god or gods, or if you're an atheist but you believe something different than us, if you have a politically contentious, socially contentious, scientifically contentious belief you'd like to take up, that's fantastic. And it would be great to talk to you. As for right now, we're going to start with this 1 theist call, and it looks like everybody else either agrees with us already or just has clarifying questions. So might be a minute before we get to you. I'm sorry about that. But if it's cool with you, we can start right in. Yeah,
let's do it.
All right. Oh, by the way, I see all the people in the comments. I've got the chat open over here, and I see a lot of people that were talking about, please don't take calls from Gohan. Guys, how are we going to know what that man feels? Because that's what the calls always are, is what his feelings are, as in why science isn't his feelings, and why politics isn't his feelings, and why religion isn't his feelings, and therefore his feelings are right. What if we want to know the man's feelings? Who's going to tell us besides? That's all we have. That's all those calls for. Gosh, let's talk to James.
There's some history here I'm sensing, but that's okay. Let's go. Look at you, James.
We've taken a million calls from the dude, and that is every single call. Like, yeah, I understand that's what science and religion and politics, and I understand that's what it is, but I feel this way, and I'm right because blah blah blah, blah and something transphobia. That's every single call. Let's talk to James. Pronouns he him, calling in from minuscule opals. Tiny little gemstones. Hell yeah. Who says God is real, but can't convince everybody. James, you are on the line with Forrest and Eric. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, but I'm kind of tired.
Me too.
But
Me too.
I know together. You drove up to Kansas 24 hours early, then had to make a U-turn back. So yeah, I done did that a few times myself.
I'd be much more rested if I wasn't incredibly stupid, James. That's the issue.
well, but you are incredibly young, so you can do that. I used to do it when I was younger. Make
there
the
you go.
24
I
hours.
can only hope.
Yeah.
I can only hope I'll grow out of this.
Oh, you will.
Man,
you will believe it.
So James, you say that you say God can't convince everybody. Please remind me, you're talking about the Christian God, right?
No. I didn't say God couldn't convince anybody. I said I can't convince anybody of God. God has to convince them.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And it is the Christian God?
Well, no, the Christian religion is not the religion of Jesus Christ. That's the Catholic religion that was rewritten into the Christian religion that told you all you had to do was believe and come in and join the church. Then that made you a member of the church. So when you become a member of the physical church, then you going to God through the church. But Jesus made this a personal situation because it's over in the book of John, I think, where he say, unless you be born again, you cannot even see the kingdom of God, let alone enter into it. So you have to be born again to see the kingdom of God before you can enter into it. Your eyes have to be open that you can see it plainly. Then you can opt to enter in. But
so
until then,
who's
you're blind.
responsible? Who's responsible for causing you to be born again? Who does that?
Well, if you go to the 8th chapter of the book of Romans, then Paul said, well, you were chosen in him before the foundation of the world. God has an elect in every generation that he called. Even in Israel, Israel was called as a nation, but in the nation, individuals were called by God through a relationship with God. But Israel just went by the law, but they didn't have any knowledge of God. They just followed after the law, and they couldn't keep the law.
So something you said was really interesting. Like, do you believe in hell, James?
No. Hell is on. We make our heaven and hell. We make our heaven and hell right here on earth. This is the.
Do you believe in an afterlife?
I believe in eternal life. Everybody has eternal life. I don't believe the soul can die. The soul that entered into this body is eternal.
Okay, so what happens to, and I'm going to use this term loosely, just the bad people, like people who don't do what God wants, live a life of sin, don't repent, all that stuff. Like, what happens to their soul after they die, in your opinion?
Well, they just wander around. They can't enter into the kingdom until they're ready to acknowledge the truth.
Okay, I guess what I'm trying to get to here is that you said that God has already selected you before you're even born. He has his chosen people before you're even around. And so I'm wondering, like, what's the point in seeking out? Yeah. What's the point in seeking out being born again or whatever else if it's very possible that I simply wasn't chosen and I would never know that? So why would I go through the trouble of trying to do all those things if there's a good chance that I simply wasn't chosen, so I'm just not going to go to the kingdom anyway?
Well, here's the situation now for us. Now, in the 17th chapter of the book of Acts, Paul says that God has made out of one blood every nation, all people out of one blood. We all come from we all come from Lucy in the evolutionary process. So this is what we have processed.
Luca.
Pardon me? What was that now? No, Lucy.
It's Luca. Lucy is the name of, just to be clear, Lucy is the name of one particular specimen of a species called Australopithecus afarensis, which is one of our ancestors. Luca, Luca, is the last universal common ancestor. That is the theoretical single organism that is the ancestor of all living things.
Okay, so we found Luca through Lucy then, right? Or how did it go?
Luca would be about 3 billion years before Lucy.
But we found Luca through Lucy because Lucy was revealed first, and then we looked farther and found Luca, right? Or am I wrong on that?
I actually don't know whether Luca was theorized. I think Luca would have been theorized before Lucy. I don't know when that term actually became popular, but strictly speaking, like Lucy, Yeah, Lucy is just referring to one human ancestor. Luca is everything's ancestor, every living thing.
Okay, this is first I've heard of that. So that's a male gender, right?
No, it would be a single-celled organism. It would not have a sex.
Oh, a single-cell organism before they even evolved into what would become Homo sapiens, right?
Way before. Yeah. We're talking. Lucy would have been a few million years ago. Luca would have been about 3.8 billion years ago.
So you see, this is the first time I'm hearing about this. First, I heard about Lucy, so that's why I started my evolution at. But I believe in evolution. I believe in the single-cell organism that came out of the water, evolved into different things until we come into the situation we're in. I believe in evolution.
Hell yeah.
Yes, and I don't believe God couldn't create a hell because God would be responsible for the people who went in there.
Okay, I agree with that.
Yeah, so God didn't create a hell, but it's the Catholic Church that created hell. So
yeah, right on. Because that's one of those weird things. Because like it is definitely. The concept is in the Bible, but I think you're right. I think it was interpreted later on that it was kind of added in the version that we think about, and other folks talk about annihilation or purgatory or like temporary pain or something. There's like 40,000 denominations of Christianity, man. It's hard to keep up with them.
Yeah, but they all try to reconcile. They all try to reconcile some problem or another in the Bible.
Yeah,
Even the concept is not in the Bible, but it can be construed that way. Because when you really search it out, you understand that hell is right here. This is the hell that we came into. That's why in Acts, the 17th chapter, it said God made out of one nation, made out of one man all nations, and have set the bounds of their habitation, put a limit on them that they might search for God and happily might find him. So when a person down here is in a situation and he has no earthly understanding for his lostness, then that is a good place for him to start seeking God for directions when he can't find direction in the world. And the reason why we get lost in the world is because we have restrictions on us, and there's not a man alive can go beyond the restrictions or the boundaries. Because we can't do what we want to do. I don't think a man ever lived.
This is sounding an awful lot like Calvinism. Like your life and what happens to you after you die is already predetermined, and so there's no point in trying to be good or bad. You're just already set on your path by God.
Well, see, here's the situation, though, Forrest. Those of us who are called are challenged to love everybody.
Okay.
We're gonna be judged on how we loved one another. So everybody can't be saved.
So James,
that's lovely. James, but what about everybody else?
Go ahead. Pardon me? So since the soul never dies, then we come into what you call reincarnation. So you come back again and again and again and again until you finally evolve. See, just like
hold on here, James. Hold on.
Go ahead.
So Forrest was asking, basically, are you like leaning towards Calvinism? Because earlier you mentioned the elect and that God chooses.
Calvin was not born again. Calvin was part of the Catholic Church. He came out of the Catholic Church.
All right, let's go ahead.
Not specifically Calvin. I'm saying just like that kind of ideal to say that your life and what happens after you die and all that stuff is already predetermined. So you have no real choice in the matter. So it doesn't matter if you try to be a good or a bad person. God has already decided before you were reborn what was going to happen to you.
Yeah. And James, if you find
listen to it like this. During the Vietnam War, they had a sergeant named Barry. I can't think of his name now. Barry something, and he wrote a song called "The Green Beret." And in the Green Beret, the song says this: 100 men will test the day but only 3 will win the Green Beret. So in every generation, there are those who seek God and find God. So those who don't seek and don't find God, then they are reincarnated back to discover, because everybody eventually has got to be saved. You understand what I'm saying? God didn't create nobody to destroy them.
So your belief is that over time, eventually, every single person will eventually enter this kingdom, because after enough reincarnations, they will eventually get the message to be a good person. Yeah. And then when the very last human dies, that last human goes to heaven.
Forrest.
Yes, sir.
I'm not going to say time, because when I got saved when I was 26 years old, July the 16th, 1977. So
hold on, James, I'm going to stop you here, buddy. James, hold on. You're throwing a lot of stuff out there, and now we're going to a backstory. Well, we're trying to get your story straight here, okay? I know I mentioned Calvinism, and that seems to be distasteful to you.
I'm not associated. I'm not associated with Calvinism. I'm not associated.
I was just about to agree with you on that. I understand you find that name distasteful, so let's go ahead and not even touch it. Okay?
Not the name.
Oh my God.
But
I gotta mute you, James. James, I gotta mute you. I'm sorry. You gotta let me get at least a sentence or two out. Okay, I want to unmute you out of courtesy, but please just be patient. Please be patient. And listen to me. Okay. You mentioned that God. You mentioned that God has the elect.
Right.
That before we are even born, God has chosen our destinies. And you also mentioned that you cannot convince us that a God exists. And you also mentioned that God, there's some type of like universalism, that God will eventually process all souls into something he can accept into heaven. Are those all factual statements about your beliefs?
Correct.
Okay, great. So if it's completely up to God, the decisions were made before we were even born, and you can't convince us, meaning there's not a single thing you can say to convince us any of this is true, what is the purpose of this call?
The purpose of the call, you have to seek God for yourself.
No, James, you said that God has chosen beforehand, and it's going to happen no matter what I do. So I don't have to do anything. I don't have to. I can sit here. I can sit here and say I'm not going to do jack shit for any of this, because it'll just happen.
Can I fully expand on that?
But I'll let you expand. But just listen to me for one moment here, okay? By your own admission, by your own admission, you cannot convince us. And by your admission also, no. You cannot convince us according to your words. If I'm correct.
I can't convince you.
Good, we agree there. God has already chosen before any of us were even born. So there's not a thing I can do to change things. There's not a thing you can do to change things. That makes this call and this conversation pointless.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
What is this conversation going to accomplish then? Because you can't convince us, and God's already chosen my destiny.
God has a plan. See,
how does that relate to this call? What's the point of this call is what I'm asking.
What the plan personally for you is revealed to you from God. And the only way you can get God's plan for you is to seek God for yourself.
So the only way I can hear the voice in my head is to seek the voice in my head? Like this doesn't make sense to me, James.
Well, see, because it's more layered, it's more nuanced there that I can't even give you the nuances now because your mind is closed. It's just like me trying to explain red to a blind man. You can't do it.
But like what?
Yeah,
I just want to do you think it would be convincing to you if I was trying to tell you that God is not real? If I were to tell you your mind is simply closed, there's no way I can get this through to you. You have to now do X, Y, Z to find out that God isn't real. Like,
see, but you have too many testimonies of people who God is real to, and they demonstrate it by their lifestyle.
And you have lots of testimonies of atheists.
See, the Bible say that straight and narrow is the way, and there be few that find it. Few.
Right, but there's a lot of testimonies from atheists who are really great people that live good lives because they know there's nothing after death, and they want to be as good of a person as they can be. and that path is straight and narrow.
But watch this here.
Yeah.
Paul told the Jews, if you have in the law and you don't keep the law, then you're going to be judged by the law. But if the Gentiles who don't have the law keep the spirit of the law, then they're going to be judged as having the law. If atheists are good people, then they're going to be judged as good people. It's the bad. See, Jesus came to save sinners, not the righteous.
So you believe that there's no, you believe that there is no intrinsic benefit for believing in a God on its own. Like just the act of believing in God by itself is not necessarily a good thing.
If you are a sinner, then it's positive for you to believe in God because God can take your sins away.
But I'm eventually going to believe in God. Hold on, James. According to you, I'm eventually going to believe in God through this process of reincarnation. So why do I have to do anything now? Like, it'll just happen eventually,
I guess.
Like this is all pointless.
You want to make it pointless, but you're not listening to what I'm saying. See, now
James, I have listened to James. I have listened to everything. James, you hold on for a second, buddy. I've listened to everything you've said, and I'm trying to make it internally consistent. I am listening to what you're saying as facts, and I'm saying, okay, I'm going to construct this model where all this is true, and how can I make this work? How can I at least make this a valid scenario or a valid argument? And I can't, because this God has determined everything beforehand, before any of us are born, and you said the souls are eternal, but I only have memories of the last, I'm 43, so I've only had memories from me back the last 35 years. Like, where are my memories of my soul from beforehand? Was like just this unprocessed resource, and all of a sudden, like all that kind of stuff. But James, I'm trying to make this model internally consistent, and the stuff you're saying to me not only doesn't make sense internally, but it is also pointless, because you said, like I said before, you can't convince us. God has already determined our path. There is nothing that I can possibly do to change that. So I'm not going to do anything. And you should be like, that's fine. God will simply take care of it. I'm going to go ahead and get going. Like, but for some reason you got to sit here and talk about it. And I'm wondering, James left. I'm wondering, James, why you found it necessary to call in and just like blurt out all this stuff when ultimately it's pointless. Not a thing you can do to change things. There's not a thing I can do to change things. It's all in God's hands. And we were trying to get to the point of, okay, we have this consistent model that you somehow established. Now convince us it's true, because I think it's all hogwash. And that would have been where the conversation went, but James left because he wasn't allowed to talk like he was.
Yeah.
But
James is a nice guy. I like James. He's a good guy. He's just a sweet. Yeah. He's a good old dude, and he reminds me of just like everybody's grandpa. He just wants to call and tell you what's what. That is usually how the calls go. Where it's just kind of like he wants to tell you everything that's on his mind, but it's kind of hard to get into the conversation.
Yeah, same thing here, James. James, no ill will, like, no. But like it gets to a point where it's like, okay, you're saying so much and it doesn't make sense. It's not even internally consistent with itself, and it's ultimately pointless. What are we even doing here other than listening to your stories? And that's not what we're here for. We're here for a show with conversations with theists and getting like really meaty discussions. So James, try to reflect on that. Call back maybe later on and say, hey, I got a better argument, or I think I can convince you, and here's how. But if you feel like that there's nothing that you can do about it, nothing I can do about it, then the entire call is pointless. It's just story time. We're not interested in that.
Yeah, we're trying to explore whether this God is real, and if you can't tell us whether or not it's real, what are we doing? I like the fact that the God that James offered was one of the more benign versions of God, and that's pleasant. I suppose. Like that's a win is a win. It's something.
Universalism gods are definitely less distasteful than the hellfire gods, because it's like, okay, eventually all souls will go to heaven. Eventually, all souls will receive that reward. For some reason, God has this convoluted, painful process to do it, which that's kind of where the moral greatness happens there. But yeah, universalism is definitely It's and you can see, like, I think James mentioned it in his call, that universalism is that rationalization of, oh, hey, we got this Bible, God does all this shitty stuff in it. These other religions are saying even shittier things about God, like he burns souls forever in hell, and how can God possibly do that? Okay, we're going to construct this new Christianity where hellfire is either temporary, or it's just purgatory, or it's just some type of like reincarnation cycle, and eventually every single soul will enter into heaven. And I think even though a lot of that stuff is made up, I think the end result is more in line with what most Christians believe about God, because God doesn't want any to perish. He wants all to be saved. And does God always get what he wants? Well, yeah, why not? He's God. He should get everything he wants. And so that means that necessarily all souls must be saved. So the end result makes more sense. There's a lot of made up stuff to get to it, which, that's religion in general. But it makes sense at the end.
Much more palatable. You know what I mean? And so it is weird. And that's the thing. I would love to explore that concept and then also get into, okay, well then, is suffering even something that you're worried about then? If at the end of the day, it's literally just this merry-go-round of resurrection until eventually you get straight. Does it matter if anybody suffers at any particular point? Does it matter if you do anything right or wrong? You're just going to get another go-around. Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
If you're in this kingdom for eternity, the concept of infinity doesn't really make anything on this plane matter to me. Like, if I am the very last person to get saved and I've gone around 10 billion times, I'm just a shit person over and over, it makes no difference to me, because I'm going to be in the same eternity as everybody else. I have infinite amount of time to enjoy myself. So what's the rush in trying to be a good person now? Like, there's a lot of questions that I would have about this ideal, where like, it's nice to not have the fire and brimstone. It's not nice to not have the evil slave god. It's nice to not have the god of cancer and the god of warlocks and fucking what's the other shit, genocide and rape and all the other horrible shit in the Bible. It's great not to have that god, but I still have just different weird problems now and different moral ambiguity now. And it's why any of it? We have several folks on the line. We have a couple of atheists still. We have, looks like, one agnostic, one person who I don't know what this person is. I don't think they've listed, but we still have lines open. So call in if you want to call in and talk to us about what, if you want to talk about a god and you think you can do a better job than anybody you've had so far, this is your chance. I'm going to go ahead and talk to our agnostic person here first, though. Let's talk to Kara, or maybe Kara. I don't know which one. Pronouns they and them. Calling in from innumerable nutsacks, just so many, who wants to know about the desire to believe in God. Yes. Kara and or Kara, please tell me how to pronounce your name, and hi, you're on the line with Forrest and Eric. How are you doing today?
Kara.
Kara, okay, great.
We talked about it before once.
Forgive me. I talk to 30 people a week.
You're all good. You're all good. I've been listening to the different shows for a while now, and it's like there's no evidence for a god. Like, there's especially not one that's the triomni, because that one just makes absolutely no sense to me. But part of me still wants there to be a god, to be something.
Why?
I can't bring myself to rage against my father, who supports Trump and thinks pretty horrible things. And I can't bring myself to rage against my brother, who sexually abused me when I was younger. But
what part of there not being a god would necessitate you raging against these people?
Well, the thing is, I can't bring myself to rage against them, to be mad at them, but I want to be mad at something. I want to be mad at something, and I wanted to I don't know. I'm just hoping there's something afterwards.
Do you need to be mad at something?
Well,
or is it you just want to?
Well, there's just so much bad stuff, and like life has been pretty crap, and I want an explanation.
Okay. I guess that's what I'm asking. Like, I understand shit sucks, and you know, we've all got things that suck, and we've all got trauma and problems and family members that have been cruel to us. But I'm asking, like, do you need to be mad and rage and all these things, or is this just like the logical emotion you think you're supposed to be having? Like, I'm not telling you what emotion to have. I'm just asking, like why do you feel the need to rage against these people?
I don't know. I guess is that not the emotion people feel when they've been wronged?
Could be. Or you could feel pity that these people are so blinded by their ignorance that they would treat you badly. Or you could feel indifference that you're not going to let these people affect your life anymore and you're just going to move past it and be done. Or you could feel grief for the loss of the connection with a family member. You could feel a lot of things. I just don't understand. And like I said, I'm not telling you what to feel. If you feel anger, you feel anger. That's totally reasonable. It's a valid thing to feel. What I'm trying to draw the connection to, I'm trying to understand, why is it that if there's a God, you don't need to feel that anger anymore, but if there is one, then you need to, and therefore you now need to decide whether or not this deity exists so that you can decide what emotion you are allowed to have next. I don't understand how that works.
It's not that if there was one, I would stop feeling the anger. It's just, I don't know, I just can't bring myself to be angry at them, and so I want something to be angry at.
Be angry at the religion that fucked their minds up. Be angry at the politics that fucked their minds up. Be angry at their actions rather than at them. There's a million things you can be angry at. And none of this has anything to do with whether or not a God is real. I don't know, Eric, am I missing anything? Do you have any thoughts on there?
Sorry, Cara, let me, I'll put in my 2 cents there. And yeah, I agree with Forrest in that, Cara, all your emotions are valid. Like, there is no taboo emotion. Emotions are the thoughts and feelings that are in your head. It's what you do with them, the actions you take based off of them. That's what really matters. And I can't tell you what to be angry at, what's valid and what's not, because I think all those emotions are valid when they're in your head, and what you do with them is what really counts. Are you, let me ask maybe a couple questions here. You said you want there to be a God. Is that desire, is that want driven or being driven by something else to heap your anger on, or something to heap blame on, or maybe thinking, oh, there's something that will bring justice to these people that harm me in my life? Like, are any of those 3 kind of the motivating factor there, or is there a 4th one that I haven't asked about?
Like, wanting some like font of knowledge, something that can explain why things happen.
I see. So you want something to explain why life has been the way it is.
Yeah.
I can understand that desire, because there's things that I look at and I go, yeah, I really wish this had like a reasonable explanation behind it, because there's things that I see in life, and obviously you've gone through a great deal of personal pain. I've had my share, but I got a feeling it doesn't compare to what you've been through. And you look back and you go, wow, why did this happen? Was it something that I did? Was it something that they did? Is it out of our hands and something else was in charge? Is it completely chance? And we don't have like definite answers to any of those questions. And that can be like an open wound for such a long time, because you want that explanation. As humans, we want explanations, but sometimes the explanation either is not satisfactory or is just simply not there. So I can understand that desire and drive behind it. I guess a question would be then, Do you feel that you need this answer in order to heal and move on, or do you think that this might be something that you can? Let's say hypothetically, let's say for instance that there is no answer to that question. The universe is deterministic, and it just simply what is the way it is, and you just happen to be in the situation that you were in. You went through what you went through, simply because that's just simply what the universe did. Do you think that's something that you could take and accept, and then start healing and moving on from, or do you think that would be something that would be like a showstopper for you? I guess like something that would just stop you, and it's like I can't move on from this.
I don't know. It's like
fair answer.
Been going to therapy for a while, and I'm waiting to get a new therapist right now. And
yeah, that was
like every time I. Oh, sorry.
That was something I was about to ask, but please continue. I was about to ask that question about therapy. We just answered it, so please continue.
Yeah, like this feeling keeps coming up of wanting to be mad at them, but I can't bring myself to be mad at them.
What do you think stops you from being mad at the people who have harmed you?
Well, my brother, I know I can't be mad at him because there's a part of me that really liked it when we were together.
Okay.
Deep down, like, still wants that connection, even though I know it's wrong. With my dad,
I don't think so. Like, I wouldn't say the desire. I wouldn't say the desire for connection's wrong. I have family members that have wronged me, but I still have a yearning and desire to have a familiar relationship with them. I wouldn't say that's wrong, but I guess it really comes down to, I guess you don't. I'm asking, you don't want anger and rage now to, I guess, snuff out any possibility of reconciliation or to drown out those positive memories? Is there a reason, like, you feel like that's stopping you?
Oh, I see both of them on a daily, and even though they do things that, like, induce those feelings of anger, I don't know, I just can't bring myself to express it.
I see.
I guess the big thing for me is it sounds like, I'm not a therapist by any means, but it sounds like you have this concept in your head of how you are supposed to react, of like, well, this happened, and that means I need to feel this and this and this in this order, and then I'll be able to do these things. And you have this what probably sounds like a logical progression in your head of, I need to do this because this is what I'm supposed to feel in this moment, and then I get this reaction, this information, and then I'm better. And that's a very logical way to think these things through, and it's not right. It's not the way that emotions work, and it's not the way that healing works, and it's not the way that trauma works, and it's not the way that families and relationships work. It's a lot messier than that. And I guarantee whatever is in your head about, like, if this happens, I'll be happy. If that thing were to happen, it wouldn't change a goddamn thing. You would be exactly where you are with new reasons to feel weird. And so, like, I think you're at this situation in this moment where you are deciding what you're supposed to feel rather than just letting yourself feel. And like I said, I'm not a therapist by any means, but I think just accepting where you're at this moment and trying to rationalize things from the position that you are standing in, not the one that you think you should be standing in, and not judging yourself for how you feel or what you might want from your family is a great place to then make an actual rational decision about what to do next. Because if you're sitting here beating yourself up saying, like, well, I just can't bring myself to hate them. Why do you fucking need to be mad at them? Why do you need to hate them? Why do you need to be mad at them? Why do you need to rage again? You don't need to bring yourself to do these things. You can just be where you are and be who you are, and then not let their shittiness turn you into a mean person. and then look at the situation for exactly what it is. Decide what not what people should do, not what the right thing to do, but what does Kara do? What does Kara feel? What is the thing? What is the path that Kara chooses in this moment? What are they gonna do? Because that is your story to tell, not whatever textbook fucking choose your own adventure stories going on in your brain right now. Just you get to decide, and you get to choose what you do with this. And then when you're able to offload this pain and heal from it in your own way, you don't have to wonder, did I do the right thing? You did it your way. And that's all you can fucking hope for. And I don't know, that's just something that bugs me. As I hear you speak, you keep saying over and over, I can't bring myself to do this and this, and I should be doing this and this. And I just fucking says who? You do you, dude. Like, just you figure this out on your own. You do what's right for you. Be you throughout the whole thing. Don't let anybody change who you are and how you feel and how you react and how you respond. Because let me tell you, the first thing that pops into your head, that's your programmed response. That's life. Than what life has told you to be. What you think next, the second thing you think, the thing you actually choose to do with the emotions you have, that is who you are. And so you're in the situation where you have all these hurt feelings, you have all this trauma, you have all this pain, and you're thinking whatever you're thinking about it. That's all life. That's all life happening to you. What you choose to do in this moment, and how you choose to handle it, and who you choose to hate and not hate, and all these different things, that's your character coming out. So I would just encourage you to take yourself off of whatever weird pedestal you have yourself on, and not choose that what you need to be doing, but just choose what's right for you, and call a different fucking therapist, and call Recovering from Religion and talk to them, and talk to whatever friends you may or may have, and just, run stuff over, and just take this at face value as yourself and not as whatever caricature you think you need to be in your brain. That's the advice I would give to you, Kara.
Okay. Do you mind if I ask one Mimi question to kind of like lighten the mood?
Sure.
I was hoping to one day get in a call with you and Erica, Forrest, because you're both biologists, about this. Would it technically be the chicken that came first, because whatever pre-chicken was would have laid a pre-chicken egg that would then become the first chicken?
If you're asking, like, if you're at first the chicken or the chicken.
Nope. I just heard.
Nope.
Call studio.
Studio broke.
Take a big poop.
Did something happen?
You heard call studio disconnect?
It broke.
I remember Aaron dropped me, the host, from the call recently. Okay, yeah. So did you? One of you just kick me from the call? Why are you doing this?
No, I didn't. I haven't touched my mouse. I've been sitting here with my hands on my desk like this.
You are connected as the host.
We're connected as the host.
Yeah, I had to mute it, so it's gonna talk for 12 minutes. Wait, it's not letting me reconnect.
Oh no!
It says no host connection again.
Oh my god! I'm trying to get it to reconnect. I hope that this fixes itself soon.
I think we dropped Kara. Yeah, Kara dropped. Sorry, Kara. We wanted to wrap up.
They got the answers. Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah. That's a tough situation for Kara, because they mentioned that they're having they're looking for a new therapist. So if they've been going to therapy, but now they're like, well, this therapist is not working out, I need to find one that's better, which is absolutely what you should do in that situation. If your therapist is not working out for you, go find a better one. The United States being what it is, it can be very difficult to do that, and also money intensive and time intensive. And so that can put you in a situation of, the therapist I have is not working out for me, but I need to talk to somebody. And that might be Kara's motivation for calling in. But Kara, hang in there. Ask her. This is a time, Kara, I think, for a lot of self-reflection. As we said, that there's no invalid emotions. So if you think that you should not be feeling some way, that's likely, and I don't want to assume things about you, but for me, when I was getting out of religion, that was me. That was my genuine self fighting against my religious conditioning, because my religion drilled it into me that, hey, you should not hold grudges against your fellow brothers. Always respect your elders. Do what they say. If something confuses or angers you, that's on you. That's not anybody else's problem but yours. So getting out of that, it took me a while to drop that conditioning, to realize that, yes, my emotions are valid. If I want to be angry at somebody for what they did, that is fine. In fact, that is healthy to do. Within reason, of course. You don't want to be like so enraged that you're just blinded by anger every day of your life, but within reason. And take those emotions, reflect on them, and then drive your life forward in a positive way. And wow, Call In Studio has 40 terminated calls. That's crazy. Anyway, I'm sorry. You can't see it, folks, but we got some technical difficulties going on here right now.
It is just nuts.
But Kara, our hearts go out to you. We understand that life is difficult. We've all gone through difficulty in our lives, some more than others. And the best thing you do is take your time, self-reflect, understand your emotions are genuine, use it, harness it, and drive your life forward in a positive manner. And I guess on the side thing there, I believe Kara mentioned that they feel like they don't want to be angry or rageful at their family because they're in constant contact with them every day. It could be that Kara is in some way financially dependent or dependent in some other way on their family to survive, or maybe just they feel compelled to do that. I guess it depends. Kara, I would probably say that if you are not financially or safety dependent on your family, perhaps give yourself some temporary distance. Get away from the cause of the pain. Center yourself. Refine yourself. That was a big step for me when I was deconverting, was getting away from the constant Jehovah's Witness reinforcement in my life and having that influence on me constantly. Once I stepped out from that and I was able to kind of cool off, straighten out my thoughts, straighten out my emotions, I started making much better decisions for myself. And that could work for you. It's your situation, and Kara, you know your situation best. But good luck to you, and I really hope that you can find some healing and some peace. Yeah,
most definitely. Yeah. The Call In Studio is still broken, and
we're working on it, guys.
Okay.
We don't know what happened. We have one theist and two atheists waiting on the line. So eventually we'll talk to those folks. We and of course, as usual, we've already had to mute at least one theist in the chat who came here to preach and be bombastic and everything. There's a phone number on the bottom of the screen. Nobody wants to hear you in the chat. Nobody wants to deal with you in the chat, but we can put you on a stage in front of tens of thousands of people. So do you want to argue with a bunch of people in the chat who don't want to fucking listen to you? Or do you want to get your message out to a few tens of thousands of people? This is your chance. Call in, pick up the phone. And maybe someday we'll fix Call In Studio. We'll take talk to you. We've got also, you're right. I could share my screen, but it would reveal a bunch of people's phone numbers and IP addresses. So I'm not going to do that. But we've got 15 terminated calls here, and it says up the top, it tells us how many calls we've had. 12 people have gotten the busy signal. 12 banned callers have tried to call in. We had 12 blocked people up here that have tried to call in and been kicked.
I'm pretty sure that was almost entirely Gohan, just repeatedly trying to call in.
A fly against a windshield, just can't come in.
I saw him in the chat talking well, if you guys need a theist, and it's I would prefer a theist who's serious. That's my biggest issue. I've talked to that dude so many times, and it's always just, well, I think this and I feel this, therefore that's what it is. It's always just feelings and feelings and feelings and feelings. And it sucks.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. I don't know, Forrest. You were at the all hands meeting a couple weeks ago, but I think we should probably be promoting the channel. I think Jimmy would appreciate that.
We should do something else with this free time.
No, we go talk about, I don't know, watching good TV shows lately? Any good movie? Oh, I saw Tron a couple nights ago. I liked that. That was a good movie. Yeah, it was a good movie. It was very Tron.
It was the most Tron you've seen in a long time.
It was the most Tron movie in the last 15 years since the last Tron movie. No, I enjoyed it.
Don't tell me to make announcements, chat. Don't. I don't work for you. You don't know my job.
But folks, we do want you to like and subscribe the stream. The like button is actually extremely powerful because the more people likes that button, the more the algorithm will pull that up and peddle it to all the other wandering YouTube viewers out there. We can get more people in here. The live chat will be more active. There's more super chats and hopefully more callers, because that live that thumbs up button will get some theists' attention out there, and they'll come in and they'll go, "Oh, what's this? I've never seen this show before. Oh, these guys are totally wrong. I'm going to call in and set them straight." And we want those calls. We want folks to call in and not repeat callers like Gohan, who's currently bouncing off of our shields. Like, do that. We have a patron, or Patreon. You are patrons. We have a Patreon. You can go and subscribe. That gives you cool access to different things like exclusive news, exclusive Zoom calls where you can actually call in and interact with us and do questions and answers. It's not a live public thing or anything. It's a private call, and there's 2 of us hosts every week, I think, now doing this. So you can call in, talk to us. You want to ask Matt, hey, tell me about your snake operation, or you want to talk to I don't know, you want to talk to Forrest about how he wastes time driving back and forth to conferences that are going to happen tomorrow. You can do that too.
Change your life.
So yeah. So you can, that's all kinds of cool benefits for doing all that kind of stuff. And like, share, and subscribe as always. And that helps the channel quite a lot.
And I think we're back. How to waste 6 hours? I think we're back now. We completely dropped the callers who were waiting, and I'm so sorry. Something happened, I think, on Call-In Studios' end, because we didn't do anything to fix it. It just started working again. So if anybody wants to call in, please call in. Our lines are back open.
Yeah. We've got it looks like our 2 atheist callers are currently populating into the call-in queue, but we still have lines open. 720-619-2288, or use the web link in the description if you believe in a god or gods. If you are a pro-life person, if you are an anti-evolution person, if you are anti-trans or anti-LGBT in general, if you want to talk about wokeness or MAGA and why MAGA is a cool thing and socialism is bad or whatever else, this is your chance. 720-619-2288. Tell us why your God is real and why it's Donald Trump. This will be a great opportunity for you to spread your message to tens of thousands of folks. Call-in studio is currently populating calls. We've already got 3 people calling in. They are in the queue. They have to go through the screening room, and then they go up into our queue. So in the meantime, just want to remind everybody to floss. Make sure to floss.
Definitely floss.
Think about it.
Forrest and I, right before this stream, like a minute before the stream started, we both we forgot to check our teeth. So he did his teeth. I went to the bathroom. Yeah. And yes, I needed to floss because I had a lot of pepper for lunch in my meal. So yeah, that needed to come out. So definitely floss, kids.
Flossing.
Save those teeth. Yep.
Do it.
Save those teeth.
You don't have to floss all your teeth, just the ones you want to keep. And just ask yourself, think, like, if you were to leave a little piece of you get like a taco, leave it out in the sun in 90 something degree heat and rain for a couple of days, are you going to pick it up and eat it? Yeah, apparently, because you've got a little piece of taco stuck between your teeth in 90 something degree heat and a bunch of moisture rotting in there, and you're just sucking on it all day.
Yep.
Just sucking on that little piece of rotten meat, and then kissing people with that too, and talking to people with that, and blowing it on them all day long. Gross. And a lot of people are like, oh, your teeth are really close together. There's only a tiny amount. Okay, how much rotten food would you like in your mouth? Is it some? Is it any? Why? Why is it any? Floss, y'all. Get some string, put it between your teeth, rinse that shit out, clean your teeth. So gross. Yeah.
Also, your dentist won't bother you about it either. Well, your dentist will still bother you because they always bother you. No matter how much you floss, your dentist is going to be like, are you flossing enough? I think they're just kind of like, they're just going through a
Mine
script.
does not. Mine goes through my teeth, and they're like, yo, there's nothing. I went in for a cleaning a couple of weeks ago, and they were like, there's not really even a lot for us to do here. Honestly, because
man,
my boy, your floss is real good, and I don't have to.
Because I think dentists usually will determine how much you're flossing based on how much your gums bleed when they floss you. So
why do they do it so hard? Why? Why are they so aggressive?
Look, Xander, if you did it harder, they wouldn't have to worry about it. That's something
I'm so much more gentle when I floss my teeth.
Yeah.
Don't be.
I'm still thorough. You don't have to shove it all the way down in there aggressively back and forth. Listen, you got to lube things up sometimes.
You do.
Really? You have to get all the way down there? Oh my God.
You got to get up in there, and you got your 2 teeth here, and you got to get all the way to the gum and rub on one side and then rub on the other side.
I do that, but the thing, I feel like they just go straight in the middle, like right where the gum tip point is, and I'm like, that part doesn't need it. I don't know, maybe I've just had really bad dental assistants.
They just use that really thick good stuff, that floss like shoelaces. That's what they're doing up in there. That's what that's all about.
Floss shoelaces.
Good shit. That's what I'm talking about.
I use plackers. I use this thing called plackers.
They're the best.
Plackers are awesome. Yeah, they're so great. Yeah, folks, get it up in there, both sides of the teeth, and it's like a rubbing motion. Don't saw. Sawing doesn't do anything. You know, scrape those teeth clean. And the next time when you go to the dentist and the dentist is flossing you and your mouth doesn't turn into a blood fountain, your dentist will be like, "Hey, good job, you've been flossing," because you haven't lost a quart of blood during this procedure.
I love the people in the chat talking about water picks. Water picks are great because water picks, they're really fast and effective. They actually clean under the gum line a little bit. Really cool stuff. The problem is sometimes that tartar buildup is really fucking sticky, and water pick isn't going to take it off. You need mechanical friction to rub and scrape that crap off.
Get me a power washer for the bathroom.
That's what I'm talking about. You need to blast that shit. So like water pick, intermediate, water pick as well as flossing. Maybe you floss just to be maintenance, but you're still doing the water pick every day. The point is do that shit every day and brush that tongue, scrub that tongue down, dude. You get plaque all on that tongue. Oh,
actually, I'll take it one step further. There are things called tongue scrapers. They're just like a little plastic device. It looks like a toothbrush, but it's more for the tongue. And scraping your tongue is great. You get so much of those like dead cells off. Really improves your breath. It makes food taste even better because all that crap's out of the way. Yeah, it does. Absolutely. It's a great $5 investment.
And most importantly, when you speak to someone, they don't have to smell everything you've eaten for the past week and how much you just hate them as people because you just breathe in that crap on. They can smell your hate. They smell your disdain for them as human beings.
Yeah.
That's just talking like, oh man. We've got already callers coming back in, and now we have one atheist and one theist on the line. So unfortunately, we will stop talking about flossing for a minute. But floss, y'all.
For now. The point of this. We'll stop talking about flossing for now. Yeah.
For now. Yes. Yeah, if we can teach you anything in this stream, anything on this whole channel, trans rights are human rights. There is no God. Floss your goddamn teeth. That's the message of the line. Let's talk to Steve. Pronouns he, him, who wants to talk about the God of the Bible making logical sense. Steve, you're on the line with Forrest and Eric. How you doing today? Steve, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Steve, are you there? Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm doing well.
Right on. Okay, so you, what I've got here on the call screen, it says the God of the Bible makes logical sense, so I'm assuming this is the God that you believe in, yes?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of touch on, I heard a little bit of the first conversation you had with the gentleman, and he was saying that, only God can basically reveal himself to you, or something to that effect, and so I just wanted to expand on that, because I know that Eric was kind of like, what's the point of the conversation? That's kind of what he was saying.
Yeah, because my point was, if it is entirely up to God and the decision was made before I was even born, then there's literally nothing I can do to change anything. And there's also nothing that James could have done to change anything, thus rendering the conversation pointless.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know if me and him believe the same thing, because I didn't hear the same, I didn't hear the entire call, but I do know, according to the Bible, that it is, you can only come to know God if he draws you in. So to answer your question, we don't know who those people who are called are. So the point of the conversation is, although he was correct that, only God can draw you in, we don't know who those people are. So having the discussion with you could be somebody that may be called maybe later on in your life. We just don't know. That would be the point.
So we can't determine whether somebody else has been called. Can we determine whether you yourself has been called? Like, can you, Steve, determine if you've been called?
Yeah, I mean, if you come to know God, then that means you've been called. You can make that.
You come to know God, then you've been called. Do you think James earlier has been called, even though he's not espousing the same message that you have?
I don't know. I wish I had listened to more of a conversation. If I did, I might have been able to tell you a little bit more. But
that's fine. So you can tell if you can tell if you yourself have been called, but you can't tell if others have been called.
Well, if I talk to you, I can tell if you're in line with the Bible. If you know God, then you'll be able to answer certain questions that clue me into that.
Can I be in line with the Bible?
I can't see the future.
Can I be in line with the alignment of the Bible and not be called? Because let's say if it is true that God is determined who will be called, and well, no, hold on. If it is determined that God is, this is what James said, so I'm not sure if this is exactly what you believe. If God, before I was born, determined whether I will be called or not, then how do I? If God is determined before I've been born whether I've been called or not, and let's say, for example, he says Eric is not called, and yet I live my life in accordance with the Bible, yet I am not called. Is that possible?
You cannot live accordance with the Bible. Nobody can. That's the point of the Bible.
Okay. Okay. So even called people.
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
Hold on.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to make sense of it.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to expand on my belief, but that's fine. Go ahead.
All right. I'm trying to make sense of it. So now nobody can live in accordance with the Bible. So then living in accordance with the Bible is not a determining factor whether you've been called or not, because literally nobody can live in accordance with the Bible. It's like kind of a useless factor in the conversation.
When you say it depends on what you mean by live in accordance to the Bible. Now, if you're a man of God, if you believe in Jesus, if you can live in accordance to the Bible in that sense, in that you are a follower of Jesus, but you can't. Nobody can like live a sinless life, if that's what you mean by that.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm not.
That's an interesting statement.
Yeah, so I'm not saying any of that kind of stuff. I'm using your words in your context. So, can a person live in accordance with the Bible by your definition and not have been called?
I don't believe so. No.
You don't believe so?
I have 1,000 questions.
But let me expand real quick. So, you do have free will, but God does have to choose you and draw you in. But you have the free will to choose Him. So think of it this way: God chooses you first, and then you get to choose Him back. But
okay, so if God chooses me, if God chooses me, will I be called, and nothing can change that?
If God chooses you, then yeah, at some point in your life, you're going to come to know the truth. Yep.
Okay, so free will doesn't matter at that point because it will happen. There's literally no course. There's literally no timeline that can be taken where I'm not called. Thus, my free will is not even a factor in the conversation.
Also, if it is possible for you to seek God out when you haven't been called, but it's also possible for you to seek God out when you haven't been called, which means it's not going to work. So, as Eric just pointed out, if you've been called, then it doesn't matter what you do. Eventually, you will find God. That's what you just said, Steve. And if you haven't been called, then even if you seek God out, it's not going to work. So none of us should be seeking God at any time because God will reveal Himself if He wants to. And if not, then we just go around for another round of reincarnation anyway.
No, you're strawmanning me. First of all, I don't believe in reincarnation. But what I'm saying is that if God
makes it more interesting.
You have to choose Him. So you have free will. It's like if I watch a rerun of a football game, I know how that football game is going to turn out, but I'm not making the individual decisions of those football players. And God knows what's going to happen.
Sorry,
but He's giving us the power to make those choices.
But that's not what you just said. And just to stick with that analogy of a football game, if you have a videotaped football game, you already know what's going to happen. You are not affecting the free will of the players. They play the game however they're going to play it. You just already know the outcome. However, if you already knowing the outcome say, I'm going to punish the team that loses and reward the team that wins, and you already know the outcome, then the player's free will really doesn't matter at all. So like what you're saying here is that you have to be chosen for God to find you. You don't believe in reincarnation, which James did. James believed that every single time you don't pick God, you come back again and you have another opportunity to. But if you don't believe in reincarnation, you believe this is a one and done deal, then if God didn't choose you in the beginning, You're not going to find him, so he just made you so that you can go to hell. He made you knowing that you wouldn't get in, not choosing you in the first place so you can't get in, and he made you anyway for the sole purpose of going to hell. That sucks.
This is an analogy I would use here.
It's just like a marriage. You have to choose each other. So you do have to
an analogy.
Yeah, but you can reject.
But if God didn't choose you, then it's not your fault. You were born destined for hell. There's nothing you can do about it because God didn't choose you, even if you try to choose him. So it doesn't matter. God has already decided you're going to burn forever because he just decided so.
Yeah. So here's an analogy, Steve, to maybe kind of give you an idea of how we.
Go ahead,
Steve. Hold on. Let me give an analogy, so maybe you kind of see how we're seeing it. This is like Steve. Let's say I gave you a car, Steve, and I said, "Hey, Steve, this car's got 4-wheel drive. It has an accelerator, it has a steering wheel. The wheels turn and everything. You can drive wherever you want with this car. But also, Steve, I'm going to put you on this road, and there's guardrails on both sides of this road, off to infinity. Go ahead and go. Even though I gave you a vehicle that you can go anywhere, I have put you on a road where you literally cannot go anywhere except a predetermined destination, thus rendering the car, having steering and all those features, pointless." This, I think, Steve, when I hear stuff like this where people are trying to reconcile predetermination, whether it be Calvinism or some other flavor of that, where people are elect and God determines destinies beforehand, but then they have like the feeling of, well, I have free will. Like I see these types of reconciliations and this type of like rationalizations, and they don't make sense to me because of that car analogy. It's like, what's the point of giving somebody a car that can turn when the road has guardrails on both sides and you literally cannot turn anywhere? Like, it doesn't make sense.
Well, that analogy is just not in line with the Bible at all, because you do have free will. You know, I choose to do whatever I want.
Steve, God determined whether I go to heaven or hell already, right? Steve, has God determined whether I will go to heaven or hell already?
Does he know what's going to happen? Yes.
Has he determined it?
Is he sending? Is he making your choices? No.
Steve, listen to the question and answer the question I'm asking. Has God determined my ultimate destination already?
Well, how do you define determined? How are you using that?
Does he elect people? Does he say, I'm putting Steve's soul into this body, and Steve will eventually end up in heaven? Or I'm putting Steve's soul in this body, and Steve will end up in hell? Does he make those determinations?
He knows where you're going to end up. So yeah, in that sense, yes, he has determined where you're going to be, and that he knows.
Did God? Hold on. Did God make this? Yes. Okay, so he knows, but did he determine it? Does anything happen outside of your God's will?
You're not a robot. He's not going to. Steve, he's not forcing you to make your decision.
Does anything happen outside of God's will?
There are things that happen that God doesn't want to happen, but he has.
So there are things that happen.
So I guess in that in that sense.
Go ahead.
Is it it's so fucking. Yeah, okay. There are things that happen that God doesn't want to happen.
Things that happen.
Is it possible?
Like the Bible says that.
Is it possible for someone to get? Is it possible, Steve? Is it possible for someone to get into heaven or hell without God wanting them to?
What you just said.
No. Yeah. No, impossible.
Okay. All right. So in regard to in regard to heaven and hell, every soul that goes to heaven and every soul that goes to hell, God has determined that to be the case. He knows that to be the case. And it is his will. It is his will that is the case.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well, the Bible says it's his will that nobody should perish. But God is a just
yes or no?
God, and so he has to punish.
Hold on, Steve. That's a lot of words for a yes or no answer. So let's try this again. God knows whether the soul will go to heaven or hell. God has determined whether or not the soul will go to heaven or hell. Nothing can deviate outside of God's plan, right?
Ultimately, yeah, that's true.
Okay, which means there's not a thing I can do to change that, correct?
No, because you have free will.
Okay. No, put the free will down for just a second.
Like there's not
I can take my free will. No, Steve, stop. I'm trying to get to a point here. Okay, I'm trying to get to a point here.
You guys aren't letting me talk.
There's not a thing.
You're doing all the talking.
Yeah, because we're the host of the show, and we're
things, Steve.
Yeah, we're the host of the show. And we're analyzing your beliefs.
If it's not a conversation, though, like I just hang up. You know, I mean, like it needs to be a conversation.
Steve, I will promise you,
if you give me one word, if you give me yes or no questions the entire time, that's not a conversation.
It is until we can. So hold on here, Steve. We are having a conversation. You've talked lots. We've talked lots. We're starting to really dial in and really fine tune where you're at so we can fully understand it. That's the point of the yes or no questions. Okay. So we're almost there.
I mean, imagine if I asked you only yes or no questions and I force you to answer yes or no questions. That's not really fair.
That would be.
I will let you do that, Steve.
Yeah.
I will let you do that.
Sorry. Go ahead, Forrest.
No, it's fine. I was just saying, I will let you do that. The problem is, Steve, you have said things that are internally inconsistent, and we're trying to narrow down to one specific point without you just going on some weird, like, apologetics thing. Because every time we get close to the point, you give us some other roundabout thing that doesn't get you out of the logical trap that you put yourself in. So we're trying to narrow it down. I will let you ask me yes or no questions immediately after Eric is done with what he's saying. And then I have several questions for you as well. I've been taking notes this whole time. I've got a whiteboard full of questions for you here. So just follow along with what Eric's saying so he can explain this to you.
Yeah. So ditto here as well. Steve, once we're done with the yes or no questions, you ask us whatever questions you want because we are having a conversation here. So just to recap what we just went over, all right? God determines the soul's ultimate destination. God knows the ultimate destination of these souls. Nothing can happen outside of God's will, which means that the destination of these souls is in accordance with his will. I cannot do anything to deviate from his will, from the determined course of action. So it doesn't matter if I have free will or not. There is no freedom. There's not a thing I can do to change my ultimate destination. That's the contradiction that we're looking at here. We're going, this doesn't make sense. It's like I gave you a car that can steer, but I put you on a straight road that you cannot steer off of. Go ahead.
So just because God knows what's going to happen and God knows the direction you're going to take with your life doesn't mean that he is taking away your free will. You have the free will to go and seek God honestly and humbly. So just because
one of the questions I asked you was, go ahead.
I was just saying that if you don't choose God, then he's not going to choose you. You choose each other like a marriage, like a husband and a wife. A wife chooses a husband chooses a wife.
Steve, one of the things you said earlier was God determined. He chose. He determined. So that completely takes a choice out of my hand. That takes a choice out of my hand, and there's no free will here.
No, because I did not agree with you on the definition of determined. I asked you that specifically. So I said, does he know where we go?
What's your definition of determined?
I'm saying he determines where you go in that he knows where you're going to end up, and he's not going to put somebody in heaven that doesn't want to go to heaven. So he's determined in that way, but it's not determined in that he's forcing you to choose one way or the other. You're choosing one way or the other.
So it seems to me that you're conflating determined and know, because both those words are very different, right? I can know that my team won the Super Bowl, but I didn't determine that my team won the Super Bowl. See the difference? So God knows my destination. Does that mean that something's happening without God determining it to have happened?
Repeat the question.
Okay. God knows my destination. The question is, did God choose my destination? So let's maybe just drop determined and say, did God choose my destination?
I think ultimately you choose your destination. But
did God choose my? That's not the answer to my question. Did God choose?
No, I mean you don't like the answer to that question, but yeah,
no, Steve. It's a yes. It's a yes or no question. Did God choose my destination?
I don't know that he chose you chose each other. Like, that's what I'm trying to say. You choose each other.
So there's a possibility that God,
he's not going to choose you.
So there's a possibility here now that things happen that God didn't choose to happen.
You both have to choose each other. So no, nothing happens that God doesn't choose to happen. Let's just say.
Another
okay,
very
let me ask you a
interesting thing to
question now.
say.
Let's just say
you just stated a contradiction there. You're trying to have it, Steve. You're trying to have it both ways here. You're putting forward a contradiction here. Like, you understand our hang up here, right?
Like if God, well, let's just say, like, you're a murderer or you're living your life in sin, and God says, I'm not going to choose that person. Can that happen?
So it is possible.
Absolutely.
So it is
you're
possible.
Not choosing him. You're not looking.
So, no, wait. What if that murderer is a Christian? What if that murderer decides that he wants to choose God? Is it possible for someone to choose God, but God doesn't choose them back?
God has to choose you back. So, I mean, I guess in that way you could, but God is going to choose somebody that chooses him back because he knows the heart. So
right,
what I just asked you is it possible?
That would be
is
like,
it possible? What I just asked you, Steve, is it possible for someone to choose God and God does not choose that person back? Like, say, this murderer. You have somebody who's just a completely terrible person, but they choose God. And they're like, you know what? I want to go to heaven. I choose God. Not going to stop murdering, but I definitely choose God. Can God say, I don't care if you chose me, I don't choose you, and still send that person to hell?
Well, it depends on if they're choosing the right God. So I'm assuming that they're choosing the right. I can't just be like, I'm going to choose Allah and then expect the biblical God to.
The same God we've been talking about this whole time.
But assuming it's
the same God we've been talking about this whole time that you didn't need clarification for the past 18 minutes. That's the God I'm talking about.
If you choose God, he's going to choose you. But if you don't choose God, then he's not going to choose you.
There you go. So that is the only thing. It is faith alone, not works, that gets you into heaven.
That is correct.
So that means that
okay.
God's choice occurs. That means God's choice occurs after I'm born, not before. Right?
I mean, the Bible doesn't answer that question. The Bible says he knows where we end up. I mean, the Bible says he knows everything about our life. But the Bible doesn't tell me when God...
You just said that God chooses those who choose him. So necessarily, God's choice happens after we're born.
No, but also he knows everything forever, which means it happens before.
God exists outside of time. So, like, you're kind of going into like a complex thing, you know, like
God can break the rules of causality.
Yeah.
Like
God. Yeah. I mean, that's the definition of God. Like God doesn't exist in time.
James, you're simultaneously trying to hold the position of God has chosen before you were born, and also God chooses after you choose, which is after you're born. You're trying to say X and not X. And then you're simply saying, oh, God's timeless. Like, this doesn't make sense. This is not coherent. This is not logical.
Well, I mean, you can't.
Because you just said in your title here, I'm fine with digging into it further, but James, you say here that the God of the Bible makes logical sense, and you just posited X and not X, A and not A. You just gave us a straight contradiction, and you're saying that's logical.
My name is Stevie, number one. But number two,
sorry, Steve. I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
It's all right. It's all right. But it's okay.
But your statement here is that God of the Bible is logical.
The contradiction because God is outside of time. So if you try to put God in time, that doesn't make sense.
Sure. If you say that God can break this rule of logic, then it's logical. Like, no, God is breaking the rules of logic. Therefore, he is not logical.
What rule of logic are you talking about?
Non-contradiction. Something cannot be A and not A at the same time. And you're saying that God has chosen before we are born, and God chooses after we also choose, which means he chooses after we're born. That is an impossibility. That is not logical.
When God chooses, it doesn't tell us, like, I mean, God knows our life before we're ever born. So, like, I think you're trying to put God in a box into a way that
I'm not putting God in a box. I'm putting God. Hold on, Forrest, Steve. Not Steve.
Yeah,
Steve. Sorry. Hold on. I'm not putting God in a box. I'm using your terminology, Steve. You said God is logical. That there's 3 axioms, laws of logic. The one you're violating is non-contradiction. You're trying to tell us God has done the thing, and God has also not done the thing. That doesn't make sense. That's not logical. I'm not putting God in a box. You put God in the box by using the logical label.
It sounds like Steve might be trying to say. It sounds like Steve might be trying to say that God already is like the football game analogy. He already knows the outcome of the football game, but he isn't going to tally the score until they actually make the point, even though he knows inevitably what the score is going to be. And so it's like he already knows that he will choose you, but he's waiting for the particular time to do the action, even though he knows the action will be taking place. Is that what you're saying, Steve?
Yes, yeah. So like let's say God creates a human, and he knows in that human's 34th year of life, that human is going to do X, Y, and Z. And so he knows that he's going to choose this person. And so, yes, the person is a chosen person, but that doesn't mean that, it can get really complicated to try to say when exactly that happened. And I just think that's kind of semantics, and the Bible doesn't answer all those questions either. So I would be theorizing.
Okay, so we can back off of this here in just a moment. I just want to.
Yeah, it's fine. Go ahead.
I just want to reiterate the 2 questions, and then we'll go ahead and drop it. Even though I really don't want to, but we'll go ahead and drop it. So, Steve, I'm going to ask two more questions. Yes or no? Does God choose a soul's destination before the person's born? Yes or no?
I don't know when in that person's life it happens, but God knows what's going to happen in that person's life before that person is even created.
So you don't know.
I think your second question.
Can't
answer. Yeah. How about I don't know?
Okay, that's fine. I don't know. You don't know. Second question. God chooses once we choose after we're born. Yes or no?
I think that goes along the same, like when you're looking at timing and stuff, the Bible doesn't answer those, it doesn't go into that much detail. So that's what the Bible says is that God chooses us, and that we choose God. Those are things that are in the Bible.
It gets it.
So you don't know either. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
It gets you out of the phrasing you're using and everything at this point.
I know what the Bible knows.
It gets you out of the logical trap a little bit, but it doesn't get you out of the moral trap. It doesn't get you out of the responsibility inevitably being God's.
Yeah. And Steve just admitted that he doesn't know. Last thing, Steve, you admitted that you don't know either. You don't know whether he does it before you're born. You don't know whether he does it after you're born. So I think by saying you don't know the answer to that question, I think a lot of your argument is going to completely fall apart. Let's go ahead and move on. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I was going to say that, let's just say God does choose you and he controls where you go and you have no say. What's morally wrong with that, Forrest?
It's that he made people for the purpose of torturing them forever. He may even where you're coming from, if God knows the score of the football game before it actually plays out, he's got a tape recording of it. Before he hits play, he knows how it ends. If he then says, I'm going to punish the losing team, then it doesn't matter what free will took place. He already knew the outcome and decided on the punishment for the outcome. And so with our lives, if God knows before we are born, this person is going to make these decisions and going to go to hell, and he makes us anyway, then he made us so that we will go to hell. He could have made us different. He could have made our lives different. He could have done anything else to change our circumstances so that we didn't go to hell, but knowing that we would, he made us anyway. So the ultimate responsibility of who goes to hell is God's. He is the one who is ultimately at fault.
So there's a couple things there. So number one is the Bible teaches that no one is innocent. When we compare us to God, we all fall short. I'm very
familiar with this.
I think that exactly. So I think that when you're looking at this, you're looking at this at a I'm innocent perspective, and you're not looking at it from the sin perspective. And that is that according to the Bible tells us that everybody deserves hell because everybody has sinned. And those who sin
I get it.
deserve punishment.
I understand that perspective.
So
I don't believe in sin. I understand that perspective. I don't believe in sin. But I do understand where you're coming from with that because I've heard that before. I would like to dig into it. And like I said, I've got a million notes and questions for you. But I promised a minute ago that I would let you ask me yes or no questions and whatnot. You are welcome to do so at this point. Or if you'd like, I have other questions for you that I think are major issues with what you're saying.
Well, I guess my question to you would be, if you don't believe in God, how can you say that this is immoral?
Because I have morality.
And be consistent.
And I'm able to judge things
based on a moral system. Where do you get your morality? Where do you get that from?
The exact same place you do. The exact same place that you do, with logic, reason, cultural, ethical frameworks, my best understanding of human well-being. Same exact place you do.
Yeah, we don't, Steve, we don't believe in objective morality. At least I don't. I'm not sure about Forrest, but yeah.
No, I don't. So, neither does Steve.
I get my morals from God. So you get your morals from...
You don't.
It's just whatever, I guess, you really have no standard then, because it's just subjective, right?
Well, to be clear, your standard is also subjective. All morality is necessarily subjective, including yours.
Yeah.
And I don't think that you get your morals from God even. No, because God is a subject, Steve. So your morals are still beholden to God, the subject, deciding what is and is not moral. So it is ultimately relativistic and subjective in any case. And you don't take your cues from God. That's why you're not in jail. So like, the fact of the matter is, both of our morality comes from our cultural upbringing, looking around the world based on like what we have learned, add in our education, what we have now learned beyond just how we were raised, and trying to really understand what the world is all about so we can paint a more nuanced picture. It's the reason why we wouldn't just say, there are very few things that either you or I would say are plainly, flatly, always wrong forever, because we understand there's always some context and always some nuance that may make something that seems immoral at face value actually moral. And then on top of all of that, we base it on our understanding of human well-being and flourishing. We're going to base this around what we think makes people better people and make society better. You have a moral, a religious framework that you think a lot of this morality comes from trying to save souls. I don't, but I'm still trying to make the world a better place. So it's the same basic structure at the end of the day. The difference is that my morality is based on universal moral principles that I've developed by really thinking them through, and your morality is based on this guy said it, so therefore that's what I'm going to do most of the time.
They're both so subjective. Here's my first yes or no question. I disagree with what you said, but this is my first yes or no question.
You're welcome to dig into it with me if you'd like.
Morals, you agree that morals are subjective, correct? Yes or no?
Necessarily so, yes. All of them.
Yes.
Okay, so if they're subjective,
and I do want to clarify
the way that
really quickly.
Go ahead.
I'm not going to give you a whole tangent, but just to be very clear, I am saying yes, even though I want to be pedantic and say morality is subjective, individual morals, blah blah blah. Like it's fine. I'm just saying yes to move forward. Just don't be surprised if in a minute I say, okay, so here's a little bit of nuance. Please go ahead.
So if it's subjective, that means that there's no true north in a sense. So what if somebody, let's just say a serial killer who likes hurting people, if they feel that that is right, what you're saying is, via your belief that it's subjective, you're saying that person is just as much right and moral as you are. Is that correct or no?
No. Because as I said earlier,
my subjective morality more important?
Because as I said earlier, I base my morality on universe. I'm taking this. I would take issue with the way you asked that question, but answering it in the spirit that I think it was asked in. The big difference between me and some serial killer or whatever, I base my morality in universal principles, which can be used in blanket terms across all sorts of different things and will always, as everything does, have some gray area, but they're a universal principle. So say, for example, if we're talking about abortion versus the death penalty, right? In a traditional Christian view, nowadays anyway, and in a modern Christian view, a lot of people are going to say that those are both killing. Like, but one's killing an unborn fetus and one's killing an adult person on the death row, right? I don't agree with that framework, but still, the point here is bodily autonomy. Bodily autonomy is the framework that I can use, the universal principle that I can apply here and say, I am against the death penalty because this is taking away someone's bodily autonomy, and I am for the right for abortion because that is preserving someone's bodily autonomy, even if their action of preserving their autonomy results in supposedly the death of some unborn child. So, like, based on that, I can apply these universal principles across a broad spectrum of moral issues and come up with consistent conclusions, as opposed to a serial killer whose entire modus operandi here would just be their own internal desire, which I guess could be a universal principle, but it's certainly not a productive one. It's worth debating and it's worth arguing over. Or your universal principle, which is essentially divine command theory. God says it, so it's right. And because you believe God is the ultimate arbiter of morals, you can be okay with anything, with any amount of murder, genocide, rape, torture, what you name it. You're okay with it as long as God says it's okay. I am not, because I have an objective, for lack of a better word, standard that I can lean upon and then put it into my subjective experience. That's. I know it's a little bit of a long-winded answer, but I feel like it's necessary to have that nuance.
So, okay, a couple of things there. Number one, we can talk about the Christian view of morality after this, but I really want to touch on this first. So, can you not see how you're contradicting yourself? Because you're saying that you have an objective, you literally use the word objective moral yourself, but you're saying that your morals are also subjective. Both cannot be true. And you acknowledge, I'm sure, that
I did specify that I was only using the word objective for lack of a better word. What I meant is external and something that is more or a lot less mutable, not perfectly immutable, but a lot less mutable than just the will of some God.
But you do acknowledge Steve, that there are people that. Go ahead.
I was going to say, maybe I can kind of reframe it from my point of view, and maybe if Forrest is in alignment with me on what I say, maybe it'll kind of simplify things. So morality is this complex structure. All right. Simply saying, is morality objective or subjective is overly simplifying morality, because morality is made up of components. It's kind of the same way, go to another car analogy. It's kind of the same way of simply asking, is your car made of metal or not metal? Well, my car, it depends on what part of the car you're talking about. You're talking about the windshield. No, it's not metal. You're talking about the engine. Yes, it is metal. So if we break morality down into two different components, we can assign objective or subjective labels to it. Personally, I think all morality is like this. I think just maybe Christians kind of take it one step further and a little bit too far with it. But I think morality, and this is my morality I'm speaking about here, I have goals that I want to see accomplished in reality. Those goals are subjectively chosen. It is my preference that we minimize pain and suffering as much as we can. It is my goal to maximize human flourishing as much as we can. Those are my subjectively chosen goals. With those in mind, I can now objectively analyze actions that will get us either closer or further away from those goals. It's kind of like a chess game. The rules of chess are subjectively chosen, but once those subjective goals get the king, checkmate the king, once that is subjectively chosen, now any move to get you further away from those goals can be objectively analyzed. So in a nutshell, the goals of my moral system are subjectively chosen. The actions I evaluate can now be objectively analyzed in order to see whether they get us further away from those goals. So that's morality for me. I think that all people operate under that subjective moral system. I'm fine calling the whole thing subjective. It's like whatever. I think all people operate under that. I think certain people, like Christians and Islam or Muslims and Jews and all the other religions, they simply say, instead of saying, I've subjectively chosen these goals were given to me by a God. That's the main difference. And if you want to break me of that, and you want to say, hey, no, morality is objective. If you want to break me of my subjective position and convince me that morality is objective, all you got to do is convince me your God exists and your God actually has this objective command. So that's kind of where we're at. I think our systems are the same. You just simply attribute it to something different than I do. But if you want to break me of that, you need to convince me your God exists.
Okay, so a few things. So, Forrest, you had said that you believe morality, has to do with bodily autonomy, keeping bodily autonomy. That's your stance.
No, I said bodily.
Can you clarify?
No, I said bodily autonomy. I said bodily autonomy is one of my universal moral principles. Not that morality necessarily has to do with bodily autonomy. That I use bodily autonomy as one of the universal principles of morality that I can now judge like a ton of different situations by. Does this violate bodily autonomy? If so, it's probably wrong.
Okay, and you acknowledge, yes or no, that there are people that think opposite of that, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. No doubt.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is my subjective morality and your subjective morality, is yours greater than mine?
What do you mean by greater in this instance?
Yeah. How do you quantify morality?
Your subjective morality, is that somehow more correct or good or wrong than mine?
I would say that I'm going to answer this, but I'm going to answer it in a little bit of a roundabout way, and it's going to sound like I'm dodging it first. I promise I'm not. I would say that the question that you asked doesn't really work. It's easier for me to say that my morality is more useful than yours and more reliable than yours. And the reason is because you believe, again, in essentially divine command theory. You believe that God is the final arbiter of what is and is not good. And you also believe in the Bible, where God commands slavery, God commands genocide, there's rape, there's torture, there's all sorts of horrible things that God does in the Bible that are morally good when God does them, and then you would call them morally wrong now when God isn't doing them. Because you have a framework that is structured upon, if this guy says do it, then it's good, then your morality could be just as good as mine, as long as your God is as moral as I am. I know that he isn't. Your God's sins far outweigh my own. But if that was the case, then it would be incomparable. As it is right now, I would argue that no, my morality is superior to any, like, your divine command morality, because mine not only produces better outcomes, but it does so more reliably and consistently.
Is that objective? Is that an objective stance on your part?
If we're using the word objective in the way that
you,
if we're using the word objective in the way that Eric just laid it out, absolutely it is. Yes, we can take we're not able to like quantify what human flourishing or well-being or whatever may be in the way that would work for this conversation. But I can say that, like, what makes humans better off, what actually aligns with like pro-social behaviors, what helps societies grow and flourish, what allows for like humans to be happier and healthier in the long run, what we know from biomedical sciences and psychology is good for the human body and brain, like all of those possible metrics that we could align with, and also the universal principles that very likely you and I would agree on if we were to take it out of any kind of like religious versus secular framework, things that you and I would almost certainly agree are objectively moral things. Again, using objective here for lack of a better word, what I mean is like consistently moral things. Then yes, I would say that this is an objective position. Yeah. By the way that Eric laid out the word objective just a minute ago. At the end of the day, I don't really believe there is anything such as like morality as like this thing. I'm nihilistic to the idea of morality. I don't think morality really exists as like a concept that's just like external of a human mind. You have to have thinking people to have morality at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Morality is a concept, and therefore subjective.
I say this with love and respect, but like That's a whole lot of words,
really shitty,
and it just seems. Well, I'm just saying, it just seems like you guys are really tap dancing here with this, and it seems like you can't see the contradiction in that you're saying that your morality is you're saying that you believe in subjective morality, but then turn around and say that your morality is better than somebody else's morality, which is a contradiction, and then also coming up with this whole definition about how the betterment of society, when, like, are you saying that the majority view is the correct view? Is that what you're saying? Like, if the majority of people, majority of scientists believe that this is the correct view, that's the correct view, or like where does the subjective?
I didn't say anything even close to that. No, I didn't say anything even close to that, Steve.
So like, let's just dial into the nitty gritty here. So if you believe that it's subjective, then what you're saying is that your morality has no more authority over my morality than mine does over yours. Is that correct or no?
What do you mean by the word authority in that case?
Yeah. How do moralities have authority?
Meaning your morality is no more correct than or good or bad than my morality because it's subjective. That's the definition of subjective. It's everybody's.
No, that is not.
Thing,
that
right?
is not the definition of subjective, and also that is not the definition of subjective. And also, yes, I would say that my morality. Again, what I said to you earlier is that if we're just saying which one's better, that's a whole conversation. But in the spirit that you're trying to give this,
right,
this I would say that my morality,
like,
there is no. So there is. What I'm saying is that my morality reliably and consistently produces better outcomes than yours does. It is more trustworthy. It is more good consistently.
Yes or no?
There is no such thing. There is no such thing as true morality.
Okay, good. So it's not more true. So if it's not more true, then
it can't be true. Like that's the thing. It's not
true.
It's not
neither
more
is true.
or less true. Truth doesn't apply to morality.
Neither is true.
So can you see, like, just be honest with me here. Can you see how, like, there not being any true morality, that it really doesn't make sense for you to attack the Bible on morality? Does that make sense? Or
no,
it absolutely does.
First of all, I have been nothing but honest with you this whole time.
Y'all disagree.
And second of all, it absolutely does make sense, because the Bible. What I'm trying to get across to you here is that there is nowhere in the universe is there a thing called morality. There is. You can't go get a tablespoon of morality and mix it into your pasta, right? Like, it's not a thing that physically exists. Morality is born of conscious minds. There is no morality on Jupiter, right? Zero, because there is nothing on Jupiter that can experience suffering. So there's nothing to be moral or immoral to. But here on Earth, we have billions of things that understand what pain feels like, what sadness feels like, what loss feels like. And so if you go out, if you hurt those people, then we can say this is causing harm, either physically, psychologically, emotionally, whatever. And I, as a rational thinking person, understand that I'm not the most important thing in the world. Everybody else is having the same experience as me. And so I can label it as immoral to cause harm to those people in ways that would be harmful to me as well, or even ways that maybe wouldn't be harmful to me, but I can see that it's harmful to them. And so I can decide that the success of a human being, their flourishing, their happiness, their well-being, physical, mental, emotional well-being, their prosperity, whatever it may be, justice, whatever like labels you want to put on this, I can establish those as principles that help society grow, ways that I want to live. I can be selfless with it and say this is what's best for all humanity. I can be selfish with it and say this is the society that I want to live in. I don't want to live in a society where people are mean and shitty and cruel. So I'm going to exemplify the kind of society that I want to be in. Whatever way I want to take it, selfish, selfless, altruistic, pessimistic, nihilistic, doesn't matter. I can come to the exact same conclusion. And that doesn't mean that justice is actually something carved in some stone tablet somewhere out in space that has some perfect divine meaning and substance. It's still just an illusion that we conjure up to try to make sense of our universe and make life more livable. I can still have a nihilistic approach to it as is something that exists, but I can also make determinations. Holy fuck. I can still make determinations about it and have those determinations be based on principles that are external to me and not just based on my random feelings at that moment and my selfishness. Do you understand the connection here where like what I'm doing is I am building
everything
my
you
morality.
said,
I am reasoning my morality out.
The morality that you're describing makes complete sense to me. But what doesn't make sense is that you're saying that there is no true right and wrong. There is no true morality, meaning that if there was a serial killer, you cannot say that that person is truly wrong for what they did. Is that correct?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Let me try turning it around.
But you said
let me
that
just
it's
show
not true,
you
though.
where the
Didn't you say that there's no true morality, though?
Because there is no such thing as true. Let me just turn it around and show you where the hang up is for me. Like why this makes no sense.
Okay.
Do you, Steve, think that murdering babies is wrong? Is it a wrong thing for someone to go and murder a bunch of babies?
Yes.
Okay. Except in the Bible, God commands a couple of times, go to, like with the Amalekites, he specifically says, kill the men, the women, the babies, the infants, cut women's stomachs open and pull the fetuses out. Like he is very clear, expressly, go kill those babies. And he gets mad when it doesn't happen. So in that instance, you would have to say, because God commanded it, that killing babies was actually a good thing to do. And so there is no set moral template. And if you were to be confronted with someone who says, I just killed a bunch of fucking babies, you can't say that's wrong. You have to say, okay, but when did you do it? Because if you did it when God told you to do it, awesome, good job. But any other time, bad. You can't say that someone is wrong unless you have the context of divine commandments. I can say at all times, that was a fucked up thing to do because it violates these moral principles.
Can I jump in, though? Because you're pivoting, and I say that respectfully, but Forrest, I'm happy to talk about that. But I want to finish this first, in that what you're doing is you're attacking. Well, because you're taking the question that I have, which is, does true morality exist? And then you're saying, well, you believe in the Bible, and this happened in the Bible. And my question is simply, if there is no true morality, which is what you've said, then you cannot say that something is truly right or truly wrong. That's
what I'm saying. You're getting hung up on this word. You're getting hung up on this word true. I'm not dodging what you're saying. I brought it back to me to say my morality is consistent in this area and yours is not. You're getting hung up on this word true as if it means like reliable or like good or altogether like righteous. My morality is more righteous and also more reliable and more consistent and creates better outcomes than yours does. There is no true morality, meaning there is no such thing as morality outside of the human mind, or really, I guess, any intelligent creature or any thinking whatever, blah, blah, blah. And you can say the same thing about lots of things. There's no such thing as justice. There's no such thing as philosophy. There's no such thing as love. There's no such thing as any of these things outside of conscious minds.
I understand that you're saying that your morality is superior or better than mine,
but that's
based off of comparing the two.
That's not the point. That's not the point that I was just making. The point that I was just making is that you're getting hung up on the word true, and the word true isn't being used the way that you seem to be using it. There is no such thing as love or justice or philosophy or grief outside of the context.
Why do you use all those
thinking? You got to let me finish the sentence. There is no such thing as any of those things outside of the context of intelligent, thinking, conscious agents, right? If you have a planet full of nothing but rocks, you go out to Pluto, there's no grief on Pluto. There's no justice on Pluto. There's no sin on Pluto. None of that exists because there is nobody there that is thinking and experiencing things. These are things that are necessarily reliant on experience. And so for me, when I say there's no true morality, what I mean isn't that we can't ever make any moral judgments or decisions. I mean, there is no physical, tangible, objective thing called morality that we all have to go pull down the morality tome and check to see what is real and what isn't, and like what's moral and what's not. Morality is a shared collective conscious experience that we are all building and participating in all the time.
And so if that shared collective experience is different than what you're saying now, that makes it correct or no?
There's no such thing as correct here. It's just does it work? Does it produce better, more consistent, more reliable, positive outcomes for conscious people? That's the morality that I'm talking about here. That's what we're so like. Yes,
can you understand
200 years
that, like,
ago,
if it doesn't,
200 years ago, slavery was acceptable and was considered a moral system. I would say it never was moral. And surely there's something that we do today that someone down the line will say, hey, this was a fucked up thing they did at that time, even though they didn't realize it at the moment. And I'm excited about that concept. The point is, morality is something that is, for lack of a better word, intelligently designed. It's something that's reasoned and argued and rationalized and talked and like fleshed out amongst people who want to sit down and take the time to figure out what kind of society they want to live in.
Yeah, but there is no standard. I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but you have no standard for morality. There is none.
Yes, I do.
There is no standard for you.
I don't know how
No, because you just said it yourself. 200 years ago, the standard was different, isn't that true? The standard was different 200 years ago?
The standard for them, yes, because they were doing the same thing that you do, which is special pleading. They were saying that these are the standard rules for how society should be. But it doesn't really count for people of color, and it doesn't really count for women, and it doesn't really count for gay people, and it doesn't really count for this and this and this. What I keep advocating for here is universal moral principles that apply to all people. So it is a lot more consistent, and it works a lot better. And I'm not saying that I'm 100% right, but I'm saying that I'm trying a whole hell of a lot harder than just saying, this guy did it, this guy said it, therefore I should do what the guy says. Have you ever heard of?
We can move on to that.
Kohlberg's. Have you ever heard of the Kohlberg's scale of like moral thinking, moral development?
No, I haven't.
So Kohlberg was a American psychologist. I forgot when the hell he was around, but this is one theory of moral development that I particularly found very useful. He developed, what he did is he took moral development and broke it down into 6 stages of development, which are, you can roughly put into 3 major groups, but like the 6 stages, you start off with the basic, most simple, most basic kind of morality is obedience and punishment orientation. So you're just avoiding punishment. This is the entire concept of hell, right? Stage 2, a little bit better, self-interest orientation, personal benefit. This is the entire concept of heaven, right? That first level where you have these 2 stages here, so the first chunk, that is what religion teaches. You have the carrot and the stick. I want to go to heaven. I don't want to go to hell. Therefore, I'm going to behave. And you're just following orders. And there's no thinking involved here besides self-preservation and punishment avoidance. The second level up, which has its own 2 stages, stage 3 here is interpersonal accord and conformities. You're meeting social expectations. I don't want to be an outcast. I don't want to be called out. I don't want to be canceled on the internet. So I'm going to do these sorts of things. Then stage 4, authority and maintaining social order. Whole concept of like Jean-Jacques Rousseau's social contract. I give up my right to rape and murder so that I gain the benefit of living in a functional society where people don't rape and murder me. I touched on this earlier when I talked about selfish ways that you could frame morality and come to the same conclusions that I do, right? So in this way, we have a little bit more developed morality because it's very interpersonal and it's a little bit more complex. It deals with lots of people, but it's all about society. It's all about social order. Then that third tier, the best kind of morality, you have, again, 2 stages. The first stage here, stage 5, is social contract and individual rights. So you have social agreements and prioritizing human life over other things. You are beginning to now have a set principle that you can say, I'm going to do this thing because it's the right thing to do. Not because I don't want to get made fun of, not because I don't want to lose friends and family, not because I don't want to be hurt, because it's right. That's why I'm going to do it. And then finally, stage 6, the highest stage of moral development is universal ethical principles. Actually having general concepts of human rights that you can apply in various situations and come up with consistent answers, which is what I've been advocating for this whole time. So you keep using these words true and good and which one is correct and all these different things. And what I'm trying to get across to you is it doesn't work that way. And admitting that isn't the same thing as admitting that it doesn't fucking matter. And I have no moral footing to stand on. What I'm advocating here is the highest level of moral thinking. The application of universal ethical principles across a wide array of subjects because it's the right fucking thing to do. And what you're trying to give me in return as this concept of like an objective standard that means you base your morality on something and that's why you're so much better than a serial killer and all these other things. What you're giving me is the most basic level of moral thinking. Somebody told me to do it, so I'm gonna do it. And I'm telling you that isn't useful. That is inconsistent. It doesn't help anybody. It may get you at the right outcome, but not on purpose. The way that I'm proposing you here for morality to work is more consistent, more reliable, and overall better in all the ways that you would agree with if we weren't talking in terms of religion.
I think history would disagree with you. Have you heard of the Nuremberg trials?
Yes, I certainly have. Can you please tell me what universal ethical principles the Nazis were exhibiting and what their high level of morality that I'm talking about that they were exhibiting that you can compare my morality to in this way?
Well, what I'm trying to say here, because I see what you're saying, but the truth is, if God is real, then there is objective morality. If God is real, if God is not real, then you're absolutely correct. But
there isn't, because God is a subject.
Before I even hopped on here, I heard you and I believe Eric both say to the person that called before, your feelings are valid. But if you have no standard, you can't really say that and believe that. So I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but like from what I can,
they were going through grief. They were going through grief and trauma over having an abusive relationship with their family. We were telling them that their feelings are valid. What does that have to do with any of this?
Because if there's no God, then none of that exists. There's no standard for anything. That's my point. That's the point of this whole conversation.
You accused me of pivoting a minute ago when I tried to talk about both of our morality, and now you're going to say there's no such thing as fucking feelings if there is no God? What is this?
Yeah. Steve, standards come.
You just said there was no love. You said love wasn't real. You said a bunch of stuff wasn't real. This is totally relevant to our conversation. So yeah,
outside of human experience, all that the person we were talking to, Steve, was a human.
That all of that is just chemicals? Don't you believe that all of that is just chemicals going off in your brain?
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
Which doesn't make it any less special.
So, Steve, it's chemicals important to us.
Yeah.
Morality is us determining what's important and what's not important. Steve, hold on. I let you guys talk for a while. Morality is us determining what's important and what's not important, how to get closer to those goals and further away from those goals. The standard, the morality, all the other emotions and thoughts that Forrest mentioned, they all come from us. You're taking it a step further and saying, no, they don't come from us. They come from this other mind that you have yet to demonstrate and can show that actually exists. That's a different conversation. But you're saying that, well, I attribute my morality to this thing that I can't demonstrate to you guys, and it fulfills all these magical requirements that I am choosing for morality. And then you're pointing at us and going, your system doesn't account for these magic things that my magic solution does. Well, yeah, that's why we're going to have a disconnect here, because our morality is grounded in reality and what we know is real, us in our minds, and you're trying to take it outside of that. That's the main disconnect here.
It's real in your mind, but it's not real in reality, right?
My mind is real in reality. Therefore, it's real in reality. It's not objective.
The mind is part of reality.
It's a thing. Like I said, Steve, here's the thing, Steve.
My point here is that you guys are, hold on. My point here is that you guys have no standard for morality, yet you're basically borrowing from God to attack
Steve.
God. That is
Steve,
the whole point of this.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Steve. Steve, where did our standards of measurement come from? The metric system or the imperial system? Where do those standards come from?
Some scientists put them together, I guess.
Us, humans. Okay. So now you're talking about a moral standard. And you're saying, well, where does your moral standard come from? It comes from us, like all other standards.
So, like, do you think an inch on Mars is different than an inch on Earth?
No.
We determine the length of an inch.
Not.
Hold on. We subjectively determine the length of an inch. And once we determine that subjectively, we can then objectively say an inch is an inch no matter where it is in reality. That's okay. That's how standards work. That's how morality works. If we can all get together and say, hey, you know what?
Works, though, because
we're talking about standards
that's not what
here.
History shows.
We're talking about standards here. Our standards of measurement has changed over time. We've refined it as we've learned more. Our morality standards have changed over time because we've learned more. Like, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest with you. It's not comfortable. I don't like the fact that back 150, 200 years ago, a majority of the people thought that slavery was okay in the United States. I'm uncomfortable with that. But I'm fine with accepting it because we've moved on and we've developed, become better. I'm fine with embracing that discomfort and saying we made ourselves better and we continue to make ourselves better. But
it's the same reason people used to believe that the earth was flat, and then we learned more stuff and we got better.
The person advocating for objective morality can't do that. They can't change and make things better over time. And that's our main hang-up with it. We think divine command theory not only is false, but we also think it is bereft of morality. It can't be done for anything useful and good. Because, like, going back earlier, we were talking about ancient Israelites skewering children because God commanded it. We can ask, is it objectively moral to skewer children with swords? Most people go, no, it's not objectively moral. But then you can ask, but what if God commanded it? Then all of a sudden, yeah, it is objectively moral. So really, skewering kids, there's no morality that can be assigned to the action of skewering kids with swords. It really just comes down to, did you follow God's word or not? Did you follow God's order or not? That is literally the only thing that matters in divine command theory.
Obedience,
you can't make any
morality.
Obedience. And you can't make any determination about any action until you know whether or not God has commanded it. So the action is independent of whether it's moral or immoral. It really comes down to whether God commanded it or not. That's the major disconnect between our two moral systems, aside from the fact that you haven't demonstrated the God to us also. But like that's the problem here.
I'm gonna let Steve respond, and then I have another thing for Steve.
I just think, like, when you look at history, you can see that there is no moral standard that's consistent throughout history, and it's not like a graph that gets better. You know, it gets worse, it gets better, it gets worse, it gets better.
The standard comes from us.
You know, the other
we
thing,
set the standard.
The standard comes from people.
Hold on.
You said you'd let me. The same reason that we don't use cubits and shit anymore.
Go ahead, Steve. Go ahead and close out. We're gonna go ahead and move on to another caller. But go ahead and close this out.
I've got another thing. I've got one thing before we leave. Then yes.
Yeah.
All right.
The reason why I brought up the Nuremberg trials is because when they put those Germans, those Nazis on trial, and all the Nazis came back and said, look, we were following orders. That was legal at the time when they hurt those kids and those people. That was legal at the time that they did it. And so what happened was there was a dilemma that the prosecutors ran into. And what they had to do was they had to appeal to a law above the law. They had to appeal to God in order to try these people. So I think that's what you guys are doing. I think you're denying that, but I think that's
they did not. They did not appeal. Steve, I think that's actually a great place for us to wrap this up, because no, they did not appeal to God. What they appealed to were universal human rights. That's the whole place where we got these concepts of like a universal declaration of human rights and having a UN to monitor the idea of international law. Nobody sat down and was like, oh, well, what did Jesus think about this? It was understanding universal human rights that could be applied in all cases. Here are these rights that people have. You denied them. Therefore, we as a collective society, as a global society, are calling that wrong. It was the definition of everything that I've been talking about, with people coming up with better and better and better and better ways to be moral. And we didn't always get it right, but holy shit, it's better every single day than it was the last day. Meanwhile, remember, Steve, that those Nazis were Christian. It was a Christian cult. Every fucking Nazi belt buckle said, God is with us on it. And the only argument that you have against the morality that they exhibited by saying we need to kill all the Jews and all of the ethnic minorities and all the gay people and all these other people, we need to kill all these people and just bring out this perfect racially pure world. The only thing you can say against it is that they were the wrong kind of Christian. They read the Bible wrong. They didn't understand the real God the way that you understand it. That's different than their version of Christianity and the other 39,999 different other kinds of Christianity. You have the right one, and they were wrong. Also, all the slave owners in this country that were Christian. The Declaration of Secession from Texas, when Texas joined the Confederacy, says that the enslavement of black people and the superiority of white people is what the will of the Christian God, and any Christian nation would uphold it. They were Christians, and the only thing you can say against it is they were the wrong kind of Christians. Whereas everybody on this side can consistently say, here is a universal moral principle, you violated it, you're in the wrong. And maybe we change those principles down the line, but we'll do that because of evidence, reason, rationality, people getting together, talking about what works best for them, not some monster in the sky that justifies slavery and commands genocide and shit told me to do it. So I think it's a great way to wrap it up, Steve.
Well, I'd be happy.
Also, fucking so annoying of you in the last thing you said.
I'd be happy.
So annoying
I was going to
for
say
you in the last thing you said before Eric talked to you a minute ago, for you to say that I am saying once again that there is no standard of morality and I have no, which I fucking 30 goddamn times have laid out for you that I never fucking said that, and I've said the opposite over and over.
I was just pointing out the flaws in your argument, and you don't know your history. If you go back and read what the prosecutor said at Nuremberg, you would see that what I said is true. So, and I'm happy to address the other questions, but we don't have time. So maybe I'll call back on another day.
And that's why all those nations of all sorts of people who believe in different gods than you all happen to conform on your religious belief, right? No, bullshit. That's not how that shit works. And even if somebody at the Nuremberg trial was like, this is the Christian way to do things, doesn't change shit about it, because I guarantee those laws and principles they came up with do not align with the laws of the Bible at all.
Doesn't matter what God they called on. The fact is they called on a God. That's the point. They had to. So because
no, they didn't.
There's a contradiction.
I can tell you for sure.
This is a serious weak point for atheists.
And I
don't
have
no answer for morality.
We gave you our answer, Steve. All right,
Steve. At this point, you are either just being deliberately dishonest or you're just trolling. Because I have spent a fucking hour on the phone with you, telling you over and over and over what my answer for morality is and why I don't need a God for it. And you have repeatedly said over and over, "Oh, so you have no answer." And then I would say again, "No, it's actually this." And you say, "Oh, so you have no answer." And I say, "No, it's actually this." And you have repeatedly strawmanned me, put words in my mouth, ignored what I've said to you, lied about what I've said to you. If somebody's fucking immoral here, it certainly isn't fucking me. So go back and re-listen to this call as many times as it takes for you to actually listen to what I fucking said. Because no, that's simply not how moral thinking works. And how fucking dare you accuse me of borrowing from your shitty fucking God? Just gross on all counts, Steve. Feel free to call back if you ever want to try thinking sometime, because this fucking sucks. Goodbye.
Good night, Steve.
Ugh. I had a fucking a whiteboard full of questions for Steve. I had so many things I wanted to ask about, but we couldn't get to any of it because we had to just repeat ourselves 80 fucking times for an hour. So there is no standard of morality. Yes, there is. We can have universal moral principles. But those universal moral principles aren't a standard. Yes, they are. That's literally what I just said. So you have no standard. Yes, I do. It's universal moral. What the fuck are we doing, dude?
There's a bit of conflation. There's a bit of conflation going on with terminology too, because I got a feeling, I'm not sure, but Steve, I think he was equating universal with objective, which aren't the same thing. For some reason, standards of morality are different than our other standards that we have. That all standards come from our minds, so the standard of morality would also come from our minds. Standards can change over time. I believe the metric system standard has had adjustments done to it over time because necessity called for it. And same thing with moral systems. As time moves on, our standards of morality do get adjusted based on what we've learned and the problems that we experience. And that's the strength of a subjective moral system based on the types of goals that I listed out earlier, is that we can make course corrections and make the world better. Whereas an objective moral system given to us by some deity, whether that deity exists or not, can't do that. God can't step in and say, hey, you know what? We shouldn't be doing this thing anymore because X, Y, and Z. It is incapable of doing that because, first of all, there is no God here telling us and giving us these updates. And the second thing is that the book that the Christians base his moral system on is static, poorly written, in many cases poorly translated, and there's so many problems around that. And I can't fathom an all-knowing, all-loving, all-powerful God that would look at this type of system and go, yeah, this is the way I want to do things. This is how I'm going to transmit the most important message in all of the universe and all of creation to this creation of mine. I can't fathom a God that does this. Steve, next time you call back, let's perhaps get away from moral systems and how my moral system is lacking, your moral system is lacking. Just demonstrate your God to us. Like, that's a good step in the right direction. If your moral system is objective and comes from our God, your first step would be to demonstrate this God to us. And many Christians have tried, and they have all failed. Go ahead.
I love how at the end he had to go back to the Psi 10 Bergen-Cates or whatever the fuck. You're borrowing from my worldview to build your worldview. It's like, no, I don't. Yeah. I don't have to borrow from the god of slavery to come up with the idea that slavery is bad. Like, what the fuck? Yeah.
Like I said it here in the call. I think Christians with their objective morality, they have these. I have this morality, and it has these magical attributes. Your morality doesn't have these magical attributes. Please explain that. It's like, well, yeah, they're magical attributes. Like, I don't have to explain why my morality doesn't have them because they don't exist. Same way, like questions like, is your morality true? There's no truth value assigned to morality. Which morality is more correct? Like, that's another nonsensical question.
How do you measure that?
How do you measure that? Like, this is where the disconnect is that because an objective moral system from a God through divine command theory or whatever, it's operating fundamentally under different principles, and those principles are based in magic. Same way that, earlier in the call, Steve was basically like, well, God's outside of time, so he can both. I know he started backing away from this, but God's outside of time, so that's how he could determine your ultimate destiny before and after you were born. Both those things can be true because he's outside of time. It's like, yeah, we're talking magic here, and once you start talking magic, there's no conversation to be had because there's not a thing that I can bring up that you can just simply say magic and it's handled. It's a useless conversation. And I prefer things that can be demonstrated and shown to be true rather than this wishful thinking.
It is wild to me that like he's going to have these grumps about like your logic is inconsistent. Your model when literally his argument is the very definition of special pleading. Yep. But God said. And God's outside of time, so God doesn't have to worry about causality. And God's outside of this, and they go, God can do whatever he wants, and God can choose you and not choose you at the same. And like God has to do this, but he doesn't have to do anything. And nothing happens that isn't against God's will. But nothing happens that goes against God's will. But there's plenty of things that God doesn't want to have happen. It's like tons of contradictions. But it's okay because it's God, And it's like just that fuck off of that shit.
Yeah,
I would love to. Honestly, if Steve could be honest about it, I would talk to him all fucking day. I was happy to have an hour-long conversation. It was getting fucking annoying at the end, having to repeat myself over and over. But like, if he could have an honest conversation, I would love to have an honest conversation because I think there was something there. But I don't know.
It was a civil conversation, and I think I want to attribute a lot of Steve's quote unquote dishonesty just to there's a disconnect between his reality and our reality. And I think those disconnects have to be first resolved before we can like start really like aligning on certain terms and stuff like that. And that takes a lot of time to do. And that's probably not something that should happen on a public call like this. But yeah, no, thank you for the call, Steve. And we don't agree. Like I said, next time you come in, let's get down to basics. Just show us your God exists. Like that would be a great first step because then you're pulling attributes of your objective morality out of the realm of magic and into reality. And then we can maybe start building off of that.
For sure. Let's talk to, we have 2 callers left, and then that'll be the end of the show. This is the show After Dark. We don't read super chats on this show, so be sure to send in your super chats if you want us to not read them. We've got 2 callers left, both atheist callers who've been waiting for a long goddamn time. We're going to start with James, who got dropped earlier and called back in. let's talk to James Renanti. They calling in all the way from the frozen wastelands of Canada. James, you were on the line with Forrest and Eric. How are you doing today?
Hey, okay. Is my Bluetooth okay? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think good enough. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, I was jumping out of my skin for the past hour because I think I have an approach that might dissolve the moral argument for theism, and it starts prior to symbolic language and abstract thinking. Because descriptively, I think we can agree, embodied life is finite. And I think we can also descriptively agree that finite life can be impacted either by additive or subtractive impacts. And that in the evolution of life, basically like pseudopods and phototropism, without even cognition, they persist because they stay alive because they go toward things that add to their ability to reproduce and flourish. And so when Steve was talking about murderers, it's just like, well, that's subtractive. Like descriptively, that's subtractive. Murder is subtractive. And for me, the good, the betterment of the outcomes that you were talking about, Forrest, was basically, well, we are opening additive horizons to flourishing, and hopefully they can be sustainable across different life forms and ecosystems. But again, like, I think it comes back down to the fact that there are additive and subtractive impacts, which are descriptive and not prescriptive. And then we, as symbolic reasoners, make systems out of that, and that's where morality comes in. But I think the basis of this is basically additive and subtractive impacts, and none of those impacts require God to evaluate. They're just descriptive. So what do you think of that kind of preempting the moral argument for theism?
Eric, do you want to go first?
I'm not even sure where to start with that. So when you say additive and subtractive, are you talking about things that promote survival and continued existence versus things that go against that? Like, can we maybe because the additive subtractive thing doesn't quite jive with me. Like, can we maybe substitute those words with other things?
Well, I use those terms because negative and positive are a bit loaded. And, and then when people talk about harm and not harm, that becomes, in a weird way, subjective. So those are the terms I chose, but you can use your own terms. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if I have much of an opinion on this because I probably have to completely write this down and really parse it over and mull it over. Can you maybe succinctly tell us how this defeats the moral argument for theism?
Because God is not explanatorily necessary in any of these outcomes. For harm or for flourishing, going back to this foundational thing with life.
Hey, I'm sorry, James. James, are you able to get off of the Bluetooth? Because your volume is really low and it's hard to hear you.
I've been trying, but because it's through the browser on my phone, I'm trying to move the mic closer to my mouth. Can you hear me now?
It's a little bit better.
Yeah. I guess maybe we can make this call maybe kind of short, and since we're having mic issues, I think it might be, yes, we can show that morality exists and morality works without a God already existing, without maybe this added stuff. This kind of feels like more of a meandering path to kind of the same place that we go. But yeah, I really don't know what else to say about that. And you would really need to sit down and really kind of parse out what you're saying there. But I think the onus is on the person making the claim that morality comes from a God to show that it actually comes from a God, demonstrating that God exists, coming up with a valid and sound argument that morality does indeed come from this God, and they have not yet done that. So I don't think we need to defeat the moral argument because I don't think it's really been shown to be sound yet. It's up to them to show it's sound before we even have to worry about addressing it.
I think the biggest issue for me would be we use these words like additive and subtractive, and it sounds a lot to me, like when we're talking about evolution, we talk about like beneficial or deleterious, and it's important to remember that those words are always necessarily contextual. And so like I think you would run into I think one of the better criticisms of my worldview, one of the better criticisms of my moral system is that it is necessarily a little bit arbitrary on where that line is, on like how far. If I can talk about the suffering of like conscious agents, where do I then draw the line? Because you could very easily use my argument against me to say, okay, well, you should be vegan, or you should be a fucking Jainist, where even beyond veganism, you should not be hurting any living thing ever. You should be very careful never to step on grass, and never to fucking, if you're planting a garden, don't hurt a worm, and like, you know what I mean? Never pick a vegetable you can't eat anymore. Because like nothing. If you will brush your teeth, you're killing bacteria. Don't do that.
Hey James.
Yeah, oh my God! Get the phone out of your mouth.
I know. Lux just told you to bring the phone close to your mouth. You have to back off now because you're breathing. Sorry.
Okay.
Like,
that's okay.
All right.
Yeah, that's the argument. I think that's a really good criticism of my position, where you necessarily would have to accuse me of having an arbitrary line somewhere. And that's a valid criticism. It's something that would be difficult for me to parse through. And I would have the exact same thing with you here, where because these terms are necessarily contextual, you are going to have to build an arbitrary point where you say, this is now where we're going to call this additive thing as opposed to a subtractive thing, even though in this other case it would be additive and not in this case. And it would end up being exactly the same system as any other like reasoned out morality. It wouldn't really get you anywhere else that you can't get with us.
Well, I'm not trying to be essentialist. I'm just trying to be descriptive for evaluating the moral systems that we do have.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can be descriptive about it, but it doesn't get you out of the same. It doesn't get you out of the same trap of saying that you are inevitably describing something that is preferential.
No, I can see that, but I think it's also contextually applicable. It can scale up and down granularly and across complexities, just to evaluate different complexities at different scales. So.
I mean, yeah, I think it's a fine way to
I just wanted to get some feedback. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a fine way to explain it, and like a fine way to verbalize it. I think there's no real big issue with that. You're gonna lose some people with using flowery language like that, but at the end of the day, it's not. I think it's an okay way to describe what you're just talking about.
Yeah, I just it's just one of my own frustrations with some of the ways things are talked about in my own apologetics, counter-apologetics engagement, and with especially theists like Steve trying to figure out how to explain things. And I know I'm a bit more on the kind of like cerebral philosophical end of things, but I just wanted to see what you guys thought of that approach.
Yeah, I think anything that we bring up where we can show that, hey, this element of morality comes from natural means, or this element of existence comes from natural, or our nature comes from natural means. Any of those things can just simply be picked up by the theist and goes, yeah, well, God put that in motion, and therefore God is still needed. So it's like I said, we don't want to get ourselves into a pattern of having to disprove the moral argument for God because it hasn't been shown to be sound. We need them, put the onus back on them to show us that it is sound. Because if it's not, then we can just ignore it because it's indeterminate. Yeah.
Yeah. I just don't think there's any explanatory moral necessity for God as far as
I don't either.
Causality is concerned. So
yeah. It makes people feel good.
No argument here.
Yeah. Attributing it to a God really makes you feel good because, hey, God's in control. I don't have to worry about things, that I have to grapple with these questions. I just do what I think my God says. And the whole thing's on him. And it's a very comforting position, but unfortunately it's not one based in reality, as far as I can tell.
Yeah. And I think one of my biggest frustrations with my own interactions is the special pleading against causality, like you guys were having with Steve. It was just like, oh, he exists outside of time. And it's just like, that's major special pleading, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when you're calling your God logical, and then you're basically next breath saying he can break logic. It's like, no, then he's not logical then. So, yeah, okay.
Right. It sucks.
Okay, so thanks
All right,
a lot,
man.
guys.
Well, thank you so much for waiting on the. Yeah, thank you for waiting for so long. I really appreciate it. Have an awesome rest of your day.
One more thing. Yeah, just one last thing. One of the terms I use is standpoint independent rather than objective. So that usually puts people off there.
Mind independence, another good one to go for. Just mind independent would be objective. So
that'd be a good teaching tool. All right, take care of yourself, James. Bye-bye.
Bye, James.
And we've got one more caller on the line. What's up? What?
I was gonna say that was objectively a better call. Our previous caller. No, I'm kidding.
We've got one more, and it's Abby, pronouns she, her, calling in from lovely Albatross, who has a couple of questions about. Also, I'm sad. Before we take Abby, we did have one. We only have one person here on the terminated side that since we got everything back up and running, we only had one terminated caller, and it's someone who on the auto screen it says no pronouns necessary. Would have loved to talk to that person, but let's talk to Abby, calling in from likable axolotls. Which ones aren't, you know? A couple of questions about our opinions on Christianity and such. Abby, you're on the line at long last with Forrest and Eric. How are you doing today?
I'm doing just fine. How are you guys?
Never had a bad day.
Doing well.
I wanted to say, Forrest, huge fan. I'm literally fangirling in the bedroom right now.
Ooh. Oh, stop it. Yeah, that's not. I'm incredibly stupid. You have no reason to do that.
I actually like to listen to you talk while I'm at the gym, so you're my gym bro.
You know what? If my just weirdness can motivate you to get in shape, hell yeah. Get in there and be like, I'm not going to be as dumb as this asshole. Lift weights. Read books.
Right.
What can I do for you today, Abby?
So I had a list of 4 questions, one of which is literally if morality is a real word. So I feel like it's not a word anymore. I've heard it so much. But my question.
What do you mean by? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were making a fact statement. Okay, I get what you're saying. Yeah, sorry.
No,
sorry. I'm still in
one of my
analysis
questions
mode.
Also had to. Right. I'm shaking. Oh my god, I'm nervous.
Shouldn't be.
If you hear snoring, it's my dog. We like watching your videos together.
I'm glad I can put a dog to sleep.
So one of my questions, the first one I had was, if Christianity were to disappear, as a whole, do you think society would break down and become some sort of horror show?
Absolutely not. No. We already live as if there is no Christian God.
I kind of think I know where Abby's taking it. I've answered the question before on the show. I think short term, let's say snap a finger and Christianity's gone. For some reason everybody knows that Christianity's false. I think there'd probably be some short term growing pains and long term benefits.
Yeah.
I don't think society would collapse as a whole. Christianity's not that important to us.
Makes sense. Do you think people would kind of find a new thing, if that makes sense, to avoid accountability for their actions?
Probably. I mean, we see a lot where certain individuals, they will leave a religion and immediately go to some other religion. They'll find some replacement for it. I went through those same questions when I was deconverting, what if I'm dropping all this, what's going to replace it? There will be probably, because a lot of us are hardwired to tell ourselves that, hey, these things need explanations or these things must be dictated to me. A lot of people, I wish people would more and more realize that our morality and our destiny are entirely within our hands, and we are in control of those things. We don't need to look to external sources to find those replacements. And so, if Christianity was replaced overnight or disappear overnight, they probably go to other religions. If religion overall was replaced overnight, that would be kind of a much bigger question and a much bigger scenario. I'm not sure what exactly would happen at that point, but I think probably a lot of people would start looking internally for those answers, and I'm not sure what the other ones would do. So that type of hypothetical is like so far out there, I can't possibly imagine what actually would happen.
It is kind of difficult, and like I think that cognitive dissonance isn't going away, even if you were to take away whatever religion it may be. Cognitive dissonance isn't changing, so people are still going to find ways to justify whatever their actions are. This it's definitely immoral to steal, but like I just really wanted it, and I've had a hard week, and I'm a good person at all other times, and blah blah blah. And whereas they would usually say God knows my heart, they would just find some other thing to be like, well, I'm a good person in these other ways, and therefore it's okay. And like it would be the same fucking thing. So like in terms of like society breaking down, you'd have a lot of sad people, depending on how it went away, if people recognize it going away or not. But if we're just talking about like how people are going to function, I feel like religion is a vehicle for human behavior. It's not necessarily like a major modifier of human behavior.
I like that modifier of oh my gosh, my dog is being annoying now.
If anything, I can't hear it, so it's cool.
Okay. She's just really excited seeing you and Eric.
Oh.
So I think I guess last question on my list is, I'm seeing now, so I work at a bookstore, and there's a lot of people who like go to the religious section and they're arguing with each other or with me for whatever reason about like which translation is the best. And I heard someone mention some of them trying to bring religion as a whole, not necessarily just Christianity, but like religion into science in a way. And I was just wondering, like, do you think that's ever a possibility, or if it's like already happened, like what the what's the word I'm looking for? Repercussions of that would be.
Bringing religion into science. Lots of people do that.
Yeah.
I've worked for scientists who are religious. I used to have a boss who was a PhD in physics and atomic molecular physics, who was a Catholic. My current advisor for my PhD is a geneticist who's a Christian. And so like, I think it's totally. I don't think it's fine insofar as like I think it necessitates you have different boxes in your mind. You are necessarily compartmentalizing. Here is my logic and my scientific rigor and my need for evidence, and then there's the magic part. And so like it doesn't work for me. I don't think it's appropriate, but I know it's very common, and I would argue that's largely probably just because of the cultural aspect of religion, that we are comfortable and used to having slightly different rules for religion than we do for anything else. And so even if you were in a situation where you're like trying to be really, really strict and logical, you can still have these kind of special rules that you don't really see or think about as special rules in this way. But I would say that, a lot, especially early science, was synonymous with religion. And there are a lot of people today who are religious that see the intricacies of science. The way that my old boss described it, because I asked him once, I was like, how the fuck are you a Catholic and a physicist? What's going on? And he described it as, he said that the beauty and intricacy and fine details that he studies in the universe are worthy of the God that he believes in. And it was basically the fine-tuning argument, but from a much more educated place. And so, like, if that's the way you perceive it, and you have this really pretty view of it, and it's like kind of borderline mysticism kind of thing, whatever. I'm not going to be grumpy about it. So I don't see an issue with that, unless you're being a jerk and being like, okay, well, I'm now going to not study this thing or deny this science because my God said blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I think, just coattailing all that, I think generally bringing religion, I mean, not generally, I think it is a hard fact that bringing religion into science will generate more incorrect conclusions from science. And I think a good scientist, when they're entering the lab, they leave their biases at the door. Doesn't matter where those biases come from, whether it's your upbringing, your preferences, or even your religion. So if a religious scientist goes into the lab and they leave all their biases at the door, that's a great thing. If they bring in their religion with them, then they're bringing in bias with them, and that's not scientific, and that will lead us to more conclusions. And that's why we do have scientific institutions, and I'm using that word very loosely, that have faith affirmations in their mission statements and in their work in their work agreements and such. You can't work here unless all your conclusions support the Bible. You can't study Bible literature here unless your conclusions support this particular flavor of Christianity. And I just can't see how that can possibly generate objectively true results. So yeah, a religionist is a subset of bias, and if you bring that in the lab, then you're going to have a hard time. So that's the way I look at it.
I completely agree, actually. My dad is a geneticist, and I don't know where his smarts went whenever he had me, but yeah, I think because he struggles with that in his labs too. Like, a lot of his students will, bring their religion into his class, and he has to be like, not to be that guy, but please don't do that.
Yeah. Can be hard,
but
especially with students. And I know next to nothing about this. I'm just kind of speculating based off of what I know about general human behavior. Students bringing in those types because a lot of these students are coming from religious households. They're just entering college for the first time. They've never had any direct challenges to their faith. They've never even considered a world outside of their faith that could be possible. So yeah, I can imagine the challenges a professor would have when students are bringing in their religions and students want to slap in because God said so or because Allah said so or whatever. Having to show them that no, you can hold on to that belief, but you can't bring it in here, and that's okay. If you can show that the conclusion is indeed true and objective reality, you don't need that. You can show it via other means. Or, I like to harp on Christians when it comes to falsification. Like, science is based on the concept of falsification, and if a student's bringing that into religion into the lab, a question to shut that down would be, okay, how do you falsify that? If you're wrong about that, how would you know? And then make them mull over that. And then if they understand the value of falsification and how science works, then they'll then understand, wow, religion has no place here.
Mm-hmm. I like that a lot because the way I always did it, whenever I had a student, if I was in a public school and a student was talking about religion, I would say, hey, it's unethical for me to talk about this with you because you are forced to be here and I am supposed to be teaching this other thing. And if I waste your time talking about my religious beliefs or debating yours, that's crossing an ethical boundary that you are trapped in this situation and everybody else is too. And at a higher education standpoint, I can use the same thing to say this is unethical because even if you are paying me to do this, everybody else in this classroom is not. And so everybody here paid me to teach you biology. I'm going to teach you biology. If you want to pay me to talk about religion, you can do it after hours. Come find me, give me $20 to talk to you about Jesus. But right now, you guys are all paying tuition to be here. I'm going to make sure that we're not talking about something we don't need to be talking about.
Yeah.
I like yours better. I like way Eric said it. That was way better. More productive.
Yeah. I mean, hate to agree, but yeah. Anyway, I guess my last question is kind of, I thought that was the last question, but I just came up with one more. It's kind of off the cuff a little bit, but it's, which translation of the Bible do you think causes the most harm?
I have no good answer for this.
Harm. Yeah, that's a interesting question. I can't quantify which version of the Bible has caused more or less harm because I think the Bible has caused a lot of harm in general. It's really hard for me to break it down to granular stuff. I'm going to reframe your question in a way that I can answer it, so forgive me. I can't answer your question, but I think if you're going to study the Bible, you should study the Bible as close as possible to the most accurate translations, to the closest possible to the most original manuscripts that we have, or at least manuscripts as close to the original as possible. Once we get into that realm, now we can start looking at kind of more objectively, like, okay, which translation is better? And I'm by no means a Bible expert or a Bible scholar, but I like using the, just had it here. Oh, here we go. I always get the abbreviation mixed up. The NRSVUE, the New Revised Standard Version Updated Edition. That's not because I'm an expert in this. It's because I there's people I trust that I listen to that say that this is one of the better teaching translations, one of the better translations in general. So the most accurate one as possible would be good, and accuracy is measured in different ways. So it really comes down to like what you're trying to do with it. But I would probably wager that less harm comes from more accurate translations. So gravitate towards more accurate translations.
I would ask that same question to Justin from Deconstruction Zone and see what he says. I would be very interested to see what he has to say about it.
He is one of my trusted sources on that. So, Abby, actually, if Justin from Deconstruction Zone, next time he's on, call in and ask him that question. He also has his own live stream that you can call in on. I think he does like 2 or 3 times a week. He's very knowledgeable on this, and he can talk to you all day about Bible translations, and he will absolutely shit on some Bible translations and explain to you why the King James Version is basically useless when it comes to anything having to do with like original manuscripts. I can tell you how the New World Translation is bad because the translators were unqualified, anonymous, and there's a clear bias in that book to slant the Bible and what it says towards the Jehovah's Witness religion. Like there are better and worse translations, and he can absolutely go into that and tell you more about that.
Yep.
Would you, just out of genuine curiosity, like maybe for myself, like would you say it's good for somebody who's not religious to like read the Bible or read certain translations or like study Bible or stuff like that, so that they can better?
It's really important for literature. It's really hard to understand most of Western literature without understanding the Bible at least a little bit. And it's really important to understand a lot of Western culture. It would make you more useful in the same way that if you know the Lord of the Rings, it'll make you more useful because you can pull some stuff out of it and like see references to it around and stuff like that. But yeah, I think just to understand what people are talking about when you live in a world where you have people like Mike Johnson and shit talking about the Bible, you need to know what they mean and why, and so that you can combat that and fight against that, and try to make the world better. And then also, if you want to understand a lot of things, if you're playing a video game and your character has the initials JC or the last name Shepherd, you can probably tell that they're going to have a self-sacrificing moment, and that's going to be a major theme of the game. And like you can kind of just like start to draw conclusions. You know what I mean? If you see the same thing with movies and all sorts of other, you can start to kind of see, oh, this is this kind of symbolism for this, and it helps you understand literature and art and music a little bit better. So like that, yeah, I think it's a good idea for everybody to study it to some degree. Just in the same way that I think it's a good idea for everybody to understand some biology. It just makes you a more functional human.
Yeah, I would say it depends, Abby. It depends on what your goal is for reading the book. If your goal is, as Forrest said, I want to study literature, I want to study the human condition over time, I want to study mythological beliefs, that humans have held, then yeah, study the Bible, study the Quran, study the Book of Mormon, all of those. But if you're saying, well, I want an accurate description of objective historical events that actually happened, then at that point I can tell you that no, don't go read the Bible for that. Don't read the Quran for that. Don't read the Lord of the Rings for that, because that's not where you're going to find that kind of stuff. So it really just comes down to like what you are trying to get out of it. If you're just like, hey, what's this book all about? Absolutely, go read it. But if you're saying, well, I want the answers to life, the universe and everything, then no, don't go read that book. Go read a science book.
Right. I just asked because I hear, a lot of stuff about there being so many inconsistencies in it. And as Christian as I was growing up, I never was able to like actually read and understand where those were coming from. So I think I don't want to say I'm nervous about doing it because of like, it feels like it would be almost traumatic to go back to it, if that makes sense. because of the harm that
I can understand that.
Want to say cult.
If you're not in a good place to read the book, don't read the book. Nothing says you have to.
Mm-hmm.
Like Christians will say you have to, but that's not true. You don't have to read a book.
Yeah. I think if you grew up with it enough to have trauma from it, you probably understand it very well, and you'll be fine without having to dig into it and burden yourself with that. Let other people do that shit. You can find other ways to be helpful.
Yeah.
There's always tomorrow too. Like maybe 1 year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, that harm's further behind you, and you're like, you know what? I think I'm ready to kind of turn back and face it, or turn back and study it, or whatever your motivation is. Do it when you're ready to do it. Like I said, no one's like forcing you to read the Bible. No one's forcing you to read the Quran. Like you read the books that interest you and for the reasons that you're interested in.
Okay. Well, that was actually all I had. Thank you so much for answering my questions and talking to me. I'm still fangirling a little bit over Forrest.
You gotta stop. Weird.
It's okay. I'm gay. I'm allowed to.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you so much. My dog says hello, and yeah, I really appreciate what you guys are doing, and I love listening to it while I'm working out. So keep making content, please.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks so much for calling in. Thanks so much for your questions. Thank you for waiting for a very long time. Super cool of you. And feel free to call back any other time if you have any other questions for us.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
Take care, Abby. Bye-bye.
I just texted my wife telling her to send one of our dogs back in the room. I had her bring Hal out a few minutes ago because he was whiny, but I'm going to have him bring him back in so I can show him off. We'll see what happens. If he appears, he'll appear, but if not, no big deal.
Really quick before we go, got a couple things to tell you. Number one, there are more shows on this channel. Tomorrow is Skeptalk with me and Erica. So it'll be me and Guts at Gibbon talking about biology for a while. And you might be thinking, oh, well, that means that it's going to be a super long video. No, it's not, idiot. We're going to do a very short normal show for two reasons. Number one, because I have exams on Tuesday, and so I've got to be studying for those. And number two, because we are also doing a fundraiser for the Secular Student Alliance this weekend. So on Friday, we're doing a Golden Mike show, and then on Saturday, we're doing a main fundraiser. And during that time, we will announce a fundraising goal. And if we meet that fundraising goal, then Erica and I will be doing a special bonus super duper long Saturday show where we just go for as long as we want to. And so if you want the crazy long fucking 24-hour biology power hour live stream thing, then tune in to the fundraiser this weekend, the Golden Mike show and the main fundraiser, and donate whatever you can. And we will announce at that time what the goal is. That's totally up to Jimmy as to what that number is. And he hasn't told me yet. In the meantime, we've also got Chewed Gum. I know Taylor is going to be on that. I don't know who else is going to be joining her. Then we've got The Hang Up with Matt, and Promise is back. What? All right, that's great. And then also we've got TACIS with Arden Hart and Luxander. So tune in to all of those shows as well. Support all the different shows on the network if you can. Watch as many as you like. We crank them out all the time for you to enjoy. And be sure to tune in this weekend for the fundraising thing. Eric, Amigo Mio, do you have anything that you want to say before we wrap up?
No, I think good night, Forrest. Good night, everyone. It was really fun. And yeah, everyone have a nice, fresh week and catch you next time.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much to Luxander for producing tonight. Thank you so much to Eric for hosting with me tonight. Thank you so much to Stephanie for call screening tonight. Thank you so much to our mods in chat for keeping things civil. Thank you to whoever is doing the timestamps nowadays. Thank you to the people in chat, even the ones that suck. Thank you to our callers, even the ones that suck. Thank you for watching. Have an awesome rest of your day and never stop learning. Bye-bye.
Bye.